All right, and welcome back. If you were with us today, earlier today, we took you through pregame coverage all the way to Los Angeles, to Athens, and here in Atlanta. We are counting down to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff for the national championship game. Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm Maria Moreau. Let's get you straight out to LA, where our managing editor Josh Morgan has been pretty much since Thursday, following the Dogs every step of the way. Josh, how's it been going out there?
Things are great. We are finally counting down to kickoff. I think our timetable, let's see, we are going to be allowed inside SoFi in an hour and a half. And so as soon as I'm done with you, we are going upstairs and getting our gear together and heading to the car and heading, I think it's about 3.5 miles down the road from the media hotel to SoFi Stadium. And we'll have our first live shot inside SoFi in the 3 p.m. Eastern newscast on Atlanta News First. So we're gearing up. We're ready to go. It's been a long few days of telling stories and talking about the game, and now we're finally ready for the game.
And we have been following you guys, all the team of 10 out there throughout this entire experience, primarily taking a look at SoFi Stadium. I think Patrick Quinn, a reporter, described it best. He called it a spaceship. I'm not sure if you have a chance to stand in front of that stadium, but it is a marvel of architecture.
Yeah, I was with Patrick on that tour, the behind-the-scenes tour that we first showed you. We were the first station in town to do that, and it's a remarkable piece of architecture. I mean, the engineering on that building, the little, everything about it is amazing. It is, it's like an umbrella. So, obviously Mercedes-Benz has got a dome, right, in Atlanta, and it's got a retractable roof. This roof is not retractable, but think about it as kind of an umbrella where there's a roof over the stadium, and yet it's open air because it's not all closed in on the sides. So whatever the elements are outside, which usually isn't, terrible in Los Angeles, but any wind, anything like that, whatever the temperature is that's what it's going to be inside the stadium because it's all open air on the side. The umbrella, the roof is just basically acts as an umbrella. So if there is rain, like there's going to be tonight, so I'm glad there is the roof. It will stop any rain from getting inside the building, but any of the other elements, wind, temperature, everything like that actually will get inside the stadium because it's open air on the sides, if you will. So, but everything, I mean, think about Los Angeles. What do you think about when you think about Los Angeles? You think about, very ritzy stuff, high-end stuff. That building is as high-end as it gets. They've got a champagne room downstairs, literally a champagne room, that we took a tour through. It's got these suites on the ground floor that are just really remarkable. They go right out to the field. Basically, if you were to go over the railing from the suite, your feet are on the field. So we were able to go visit that. But then the video board that hangs down, it's really a sight to behold. And it's also a very vertical stadium. And the importance to that is vertical, even though it is open air, vertical helps keep sound in. And so if this game gets exciting tonight, which I'm sure it will, it is going to be loud. And given the size of Georgia and the reach that Georgia has across the country, compared to a much smaller private school in TCU, I expect this place to be 75, 80% Dogs fans. It's going to feel like a home game for Georgia, and it is going to be loud in there. So the vertical stadium makes it a lot louder. So despite it being open air, I think this place is going to be rocking tonight.
Now, we got the chance to speak with Madeline Montgomery. She took us through Athens, where preparations are already underway. There's watch parties, tailgating that is going to be had there, as I'm sure across the Southeast, I could say. But the word is that SoFi Stadium is not allowing tailgating.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of interesting back and forth of is it SoFi not allowing it? Is it the college football playoff? It's our understanding it's the college football playoff, but besides who, regardless, who's not allowing it, it's there's no tailgating, and it's football. It's college football. It's kind of odd. There is tailgating at LA Chargers games that play at SoFi. There is tailgating at LA Rams game, which is at SoFi, but there's not for the college football playoff. There's nothing more synonymous in this world, I think, than college football and tailgating, especially in the South, especially in Athens. So for Dogs fans to not be able to tailgate, I'm not convinced that's going to hold. I think they're going to be defiant, and I don't think that security can shut down everybody. I'm not advocating for that, but I would be shocked if we don't see a lot of people out tailgating, at least in some form. Maybe you're not going to get your big RVs and your big, your big uh, major tailgate scenes where you've got flags up and 10 tents up and people outside throwing footballs and playing bags and setting up mobile bars. But I think you're going to see people out there with smaller tents, smaller setups. And I just don't know how, with all of those parking spots and all of those people, how are we exactly going to shut all of those down? So we'll see. We'll see. But I would be shocked if Dogs fans aren't out there finding a way to tailgate tonight.
We have a Chasing the Championship special and continuing coverage later on tonight. I'm hoping, being out in LA, being closest to all the fun out there, you could give us some sneak peeks, tell us what we can expect. Because I know we have a team of 10 that's just been all over Los Angeles bringing us this experience.
Well, there's Alan Devlin making a cameo behind us. This is OTT. Yes, we're on ANF Plus. Yes. So there's Alan. Alan's been up nice and early. He was really excited. He told me all about how excited he was to be early. So we gave him that opportunity to be on the morning show with how excited he was.
It was beautiful. It was just everything I could ever want in life.
But yeah, no, we do have everybody out. So Emily, Gagnon, and Alan here will be inside the stadium tonight. And then Patrick Quinn and Rob Hughes and Ella Dorsey will all be outside the stadium tonight. They will be covering fans. They're going to go out and looking to see if there's any tailgaters out there who are deciding to flip the script a little bit and say we're going to tailgate anyway. So they're going to go out and look for those people and those stories. We know the governor's in town, Governor Kemp. We also know that his tweet said that I'm going to go find a tailgate. So maybe we'll see if Robinella or Patrick can go find Governor Kemp tailgating. Do you think security is going to shut down the governor of Georgia from tailgating? We'll see. But we're going to have it covered. And then I know back in Atlanta and Athens, we're going to have teams in Atlanta, Athens. We're going to be everywhere. If you watch tonight, we're going to bring you to LA. We're going to bring you to Athens. We're going to bring you to the experience. You're going to talk football. We're going to talk fun. We're going to talk everything we did in LA this week. We're going to talk to fans arriving at the stadium. We're going to have everything you could possibly want tonight. I know you can go to ESPN. You certainly can go to ESPN and watch their pregame coverage, but it's going to be all X and O's football. All X and O's. They're not going to have the fans. They're not going to have the fun. They're not going to have the entertainment aspects. And so my pitch to anybody deciding which pregame show to watch, we've got one at 7. ESPN's got one at 7. We're going to bring a local flair to it. We're going to bring the fun to it. ESPN is just going to focus on football. So I would pick us tonight over any other network.
I was talking, I believe, to Alan this morning about what a special connection you all have to the Dogs or to Georgia as you're out there on the west side of things. Tell me how it's been, being able to take all of this in as a football fan, as a Dogs fan, I imagine, but also as a journalist, and just balancing that awesome responsibility and that living through this moment with these guys.
Well, it's not a very tough assignment. Let's put it that way. It's been a real joy to be out here and actually get to cover it. It's a lot of hours. I think everybody here is putting in about 16 hours a day, the teams out here, but nobody is certainly complaining about having to work all those hours, because what an opportunity to get to go across the country to cover an event like this that's bigger than football. It's kind of a cultural event, to a social event, to get to come out and to be a part of this. And so, and getting to tell these stories, because we know how every single person watching now, every single person watching tonight wishes they could be there. Not everybody has that opportunity, and we are privileged to have that opportunity, and we're not wasting it. So this trip isn't about us getting to come; it's about us getting to come and share the stories with everybody at home. And we hope we've done a good job of that. And we want to put a smile on your face. We want to make it exciting, make you get excited, more excited about the game, but it's tough to talk football for a week, because it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I just want to get to the game, hurry up, let's play. And so we wanted to make our coverage more about the fun and entertainment and taking the viewer to LA and enjoying that time. But for all of us, the opportunity to do this, to be here, to tell these stories, to get the opportunity to be a part of this experience has been really thrilling for all of us and for all the Georgia fans here and families and players. It's something that all of us will never forget and cherish throughout our careers and our lives. So we're loving it.
And Josh, I know we'll be touching base here closer to the 3 o'clock hour, 2:45. But I gotta ask you, as you're about to enter this stadium and things are going to get real for the players, for media, for the fans, what are you excited for most out of following this game?
I'm excited for the energy inside the stadium. That it's just, you have the buildup, you have the excitement. We've told all these stories. We've talked about everything we could possibly talk about pregame. But I'm telling you, I'm not a player, but I can't imagine what it's like for them to walk out when there's 90,000 fans inside a building, all ready to watch you perform. But for us, we get to be down on the field. We get to be kind of in that element as well, and the energy is it's palpable, and it is just a buzz inside that stadium. And that feeling, although you're not playing it, you feel it. You feel the energy. You kind of get that excitement, the bright lights. You start seeing stars. It's really a fun experience to feel the energy that the players are, and the buildup. The buildup culminates in that excitement. So I promise, the first time when we're getting all of our gear, which we're getting to do as soon as I get off with you, when we get our gear and we step and we walk through that tunnel for the first time, there's not going to be a bunch of fans excited to see us, but it's going to, this energy leading up to it. And then at 7 o'clock tonight, when we've got that Chasing the Championship special, it's going to be a half an hour before kickoff. That place will be rocking. It will be a buzz. And that moment, that honestly, that half hour or so before the game, when we're down on the field, when the stadium is full and ready to go, I'm already getting goosebumps. I'm so excited about doing it.
And we're excited to follow along with you, Josh. Thank you so much for taking us to the LA experience, into the room. We can't wait to see this kickoff and this game go down along with you.
We'll be there. I hope you all watch tonight, and can't wait to report later tonight on a Dawgs win.
Awesome. See you soon. All right, and that was our managing editor, my boss, Josh Morgan, out there in Los Angeles, along with the rest of our team. And I got to tell you, we have reporters, anchors, photojournalists in Inglewood, California. Some names you might recognize. We got Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Patrick Quinn, Alan Devlin, who you saw there, all trying to bring this experience to those of you who weren't able to make it in person. We want to take you as close to those players as we possibly can, and we're going to achieve that today. So a lot to get into with your pre-game coverage. Comment below. We have a question going. Who do you think it's going to be, TCU or UGA Dawgs, and how many points for the championship title? We're going to be talking all about that. And then coming up here shortly, Adam Murphy, our senior reporter here at Atlanta News First, he'll be talking about Indianapolis and what that looked like last year compared to the excitement and the energy today. He'll be also part of the coverage that you can expect tonight, and that all leads up to our conversation with Atlanta sports favorite Fred Khalil. So a lot to go over on this stream here, but let's talk a little bit about what this game means to Georgia. And for that, I have our Chelsea Bimefor, who stepped into the shot with me wearing her beads.
They're a must.
And the red is just to tell them that we're here. We're counting down to the excitement and just to this togetherness. I mean, in the newsroom, you can see just spots of red and not a single purple or white shirt. This is a Dawgs station. I wanted to bring you on because you are, and forgive me if I'm wrong, UGA alumni.
I am.
You're a Georgia girl.
Yes, ma'am.
This football game means a lot to the Athens community, to Georgia, but to really a lot of people who have been following these guys for the years they've been playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a huge deal. We all got to watch them win it big after 41 years last year in Indianapolis. I got to go with my mom, so that was like once in a lifetime memory, which was super cool. And they have the opportunity to go back to back. So if they do this, this will be the first time in CFP history, the recent years, that they would be the first time to go back to back and be champions. So this is a huge deal. But also for all the Georgia fans out there, like, we spent decades and decades and decades trying to reach this milestone again. So to be able to do it 2 years in a row after 41 years would just be incredible. And we spent a lot of had a lot of heartache in Sanford Stadium over the last decade or so, but I've been a fan, so it's just really cool to see this energy through Atlanta, through Athens, in our newsroom, just be an awesome thing if they got to go back to back.
So take me through the Athens experience. I'm sure you've seen some UGA watch party celebrations go down over there. We got to see a glimpse with Madeline Montgomery before some technical issues got in the way. But what does that setup look like? I mean, for the Athens community, these are not just players. These are people that, these are college-age kids. They've seen them grow up. Some of them possibly grew up in Athens.
Absolutely.
So this is a lot more personal in that area.
It is. I mean, like, they're like royalty in Athens. Like, getting to watch the Dogs play is just incredible. Seeing them, like, I remember sitting on some of the buses going to class when I was in campus and being next to, like, Nick Chubb and some of the greats from the past and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm, like, sitting next to Nick Chubb right now. He's touching my elbow on the bus. It's just so cool. And, like, you were just talking about, like, the party scene and the watch parties and stuff, like, there's just nothing like Athens, Georgia. I don't know if you've ever been, but 10 out of 10 recommend just going up for a game sometime if you haven't. I mean, it's always deemed like one of the best, biggest party schools in America. There's obviously a lot more going on too, great academics, but like the party scene in the South is just crazy. Even if you're not partying and drinking, like, so fun to bring your kids and just walk around campus on game day. There's barbecues, like, there's live music. It's just so incredible.
And you can hear that buzz in the newsroom, that excitement building up.
Yeah.
This is such a full circle moment for you. From going to watching these games and following essentially the Dogs as a UGA student, now to as a journalist covering them, what has that been like?
It's so cool. I mean, honestly, I get emotional talking about it, which is probably stupid to some people, but I grew up in Cobb County in Kennesaw. I went to UGA. I worked in Macon for 4 years. Which was during the Jake Fromm era, and he was from right outside of Macon, so I got to cover the Dogs for a few years when I was right out of college. And then I moved to Tennessee for a couple years for a job and just moved back here in August. So, like, getting to be here for this season, I got to go to all the home games with my mom. We have season tickets. It's just such a full circle moment, like you said. I mean, I went to the journalism school there. I'm a graduate of the journalism school. Shout out to Grady. We have several Grady grads in the newsroom, which makes this even sweeter. But yeah, it's just the coolest thing. Like, 2022 was one of the greatest years of my life. Not that this is about me, but it started by the Dogs winning the championship. I got this job in Atlanta, got to come home, and now possibly get to see them do it again. Well, I get to sit here and be a working journalist, experiencing all this and covering this. So much fun.
Yeah, and your story is not alone. I mean, we've been talking to some fans who have been describing this game as so much more than that to them, and their personal connection to these guys and their personal connection to having Georgia on the national football stage is a big deal. And to that, TCU, their send-off, the miles and miles of people that were surrounding their buses outside of the Texas Christian University. And then to see that they haven't won a national championship title since 1938 and are on this big stage along with our Bulldogs.
So cool.
This is such an exciting time for everybody.
It's like whoever wins, it's a Cinderella story either way. For TCU, for having been so many years, and for the Dogs getting possibly to go back-to-back. I mean, everyone knows Stetson Bennett's story. This would just be like the fairy tale ending if he also got to add a second championship this year.
And so you are part of this coverage, and we were just talking to managing editor Josh Morgan about all of the effort and time that everybody in LA, everybody here has dedicated to bringing people to the LA experience and to Dogs fandom. You are part of that coverage. You're working on a story tonight. I believe that airs at 5:30. Can you tell us a little bit about what we can expect?
Definitely. As you said, this means a lot to a lot of fans, and I have the honor of telling this story tonight. It's actually one of my really good friends from college, her family, huge Dog fans, mom, dad, brother, sister, everyone went to UGA. Like, I don't know a bigger UGA family than this. So her dad, years and years ago, it's 2017, the Dogs made it to the Rose Bowl. And he had made a promise to his family, like, if the Dogs ever make it, we're going to Pasadena. It's such an incredible venue and facility, and it's just like, that was their dream, to like get to go out there to California as a family. So Christmas 2017, he surprises his wife and kids with tickets and this all expense paid trip, flights out there to California. They have this super cute video, which we're gonna add in our story tonight, where he gives them roses like it's like The Bachelor, and he's like, will you accept this rose to the Rose Bowl? And everyone's crying and everyone's all excited. And over the next couple of days and weeks before the game, he started having chest pains, and he was like, well, I should probably go get this checked out, and I believe the story goes they were tailgating next to a couple who was a doctor.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, oh, you should go get your health checked out. I really encourage you, yada, yada, yada. So he goes to this hospital in Athens, and long story short, learns that he needs double bypass open heart surgery. And the doctor said, if you get on that plane to Pasadena, you're not going to come back. Like, one of his arteries was 100% clogged, the other was 70% clogged. And obviously that's horrible for your health and very scary and disappointing, but he was like, I was more disappointed that I didn't get to take this once-in-a-lifetime trip out to California with my family. So the trip gets canceled. He has the open heart surgery, makes it through with flying colors. Has now made a full recovery, has made a few lifestyle changes, better diet, all that kind of stuff. So last year he was healthy enough to get to go to the national championship in Indianapolis with his family. So it wasn't quite California, but he was around to see it. And they got to go to the game last year and watch the Dogs win it all, which we have a great video of that too. You have to watch the story at 5:30 of them all just like sobbing in the stands. And during the interview I asked him about that moment, and he was like, it just hit me. Like, as a dog fan, I'm crying tears of happiness, but to like sit there and experience it with my family after almost passing away, basically, like almost being on death's doorstep, just so cool. Like, to still be here and witness everything. So, of course, the ending point to all of that is they're in California tonight, and they finally got to take their trip out to California to watch the Dogs play. So he and his daughter will be in SoFi Stadium tonight, finally on their California trip. So
That is amazing.
really cool story that you guys have to watch at 5:30.
5:30, and we will make sure to drop a link to that
Yes.
as well, so you don't miss it.
A little bit of a tearjerker.
I know, what an amazing story that you are able to then tell, but somebody lived through. That is something that is straight out of a fictional book you can't imagine is somebody's life.
It is absolutely crazy, and like I said, his daughter was one of my best friends from college, so just an honor to be able to tell their story, and like, it's something that I've thought about for the last 5 years of my life, and I was like, what a great time to be here and to get to tell that story. And like, now the Dogs are back in California, so just again a total full circle moment.
And I gotta say, I didn't really understand the lengths that Dogs fans would go up until I was talking to a reporter, Madeline Montgomery. She was at the airport on Friday, and she ran into a couple who bought their tickets for SoFi Stadium for the national championship game to watch the Dogs before they had even played the Peach Bowl.
Oh yeah.
That is some confidence, because those tickets aren't cheap.
Oh no, they're
and that
very
flight
expensive.
isn't cheap. I mean, the average flight right now to California from ATL averages $2,000 for a single person.
Yep.
I can't imagine, but for those fans, they knew
Yeah.
that it was going to happen.
I mean, it's once in a lifetime. It's like, you got to take the risk. And last year when I was able to go with my mom, I was living in Nashville at the time, which was only like a 3.5-hour drive. And so we were like, you know what, it's going to be expensive, but this is truly like a once in a lifetime experience. So bit the bullet. We got to go last year. I have friends that did the same thing this year. They bought the tickets like 6 months ago, and they were like,
wow.
well, we just hope the Dogs make it. They booked an Airbnb back in like February, and they were
Can't
like,
imagine.
you know, we'll just cancel it if they're not going to make it. So 2 of those friends, they flew from Atlanta to Phoenix because it was too expensive to fly all the way to LA. So they then drove from Phoenix to California, turned it into a road trip, made some stops along the way at certain landmarks and bars and restaurants and stuff. And they're just out there living the dream. They're like, thank God we booked this 9 months ago on a whim. Like,
unlike any other football team I've ever seen, they have some of the most dedicated fans.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to let you go because I know you have a story to get back to
Gotta
and to
finish
work
it.
on. But I'm asking everybody this question. We're asking the comments section. Who's it going to be tonight for the national championship team, and by how many points?
oh my gosh, well, of course it's going to be Georgia. I haven't thought about the score prediction because the end of that Ohio State game was just like, whew, my heart is still beating fast from it. So I'm going to say Dogs by 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
Okay.
I don't know what the final will be, but it will be by 2 touchdowns.
That's been the popular prediction from the comments section to asking our crews in LA. It's either been 1 or 2 touchdowns.
I think, you know what, they had some work to do. They admitted after that Ohio State game that that wasn't their best performance, so I hope they went back to work, practiced well this week, and have put together a better game plan. And I think if they did, it's going to be successful.
Fantastic. Chelsea, thank you so much.
Thanks,
We're so
Maria.
excited. Again, 5:30, that tear-jerking story to really bring in the emotional touch of our pregame coverage. Make sure that you're watching that. All right, guys, like I was saying, we have a ton of pregame coverage to get to you and to talk leading up to the countdown of this game. I wish I had a clock like up here. that gave you the minutes and hours, and maybe you guys can get it going in the comment section. But let me read through some of your comments while I have you all here. So we have Haki Turner saying, "Let's go Dogs." I couldn't have said it better myself. Raquel saying, "We'll be watching from Athens." Athens is an amazing place. I did end up going there to Grady College to talk to some students for a night, and I gotta say, just some of the most passionate people and such a great community. I definitely will have to be back for one of these watch parties, as Chelsea recommended to me. Fletcher saying, "I'm ready to gear up for the Bulldogs." I love the dog energy that's going on in the comment section. Michael Baxter, "Good afternoon to everyone in Atlanta News First, and go Dogs, go Dogs." Kathy Lanning actually put out some history that I'm going to read here. Thank you so much, Kathy. Saying the Southeastern Conference National Championships, 1980 and 2021. Stanford Stadium brought in 92,000 people, closer to 93,000 people. 2020. Oh, I believe she's talking about the campus enrollment, and then Texas Christian University Big 12 Conference National Championships in 1935 and 1938. That stadium bringing in about 47,000 people, and we already know right now that the number is over 20 million for the amount of football fans that are expected to watch this game on television, and I'm sure SoFi Stadium will be packed to the brim. All right, I got Adam Murphy here standing off camera, mic'd up and ready to go. I was mentioning earlier that we were going to bring you on as someone who has been to several of these national championship games, most recently Indianapolis for the Dogs.
Right.
And now standing in this moment, getting ready to hopefully cover their winning second national championship in a row.
Well, let me begin by saying go Dogs, right? This is a huge, huge day for any Georgia fan and really any college football fan that's been waiting a long time for greatness. I mean, Georgia, as we talked about, and I know other guests on this program have talked about, that Georgia waited 41 years to win a national championship. 1980, then last year was the first in 41 years. That was just unbelievable. And to be a part of that, I did go with our crew to, first of all, down to Miami, because that's where the Orange Bowl was when they beat Michigan, and handily beat Michigan. And then, of course, we went from 70-degree weather down in Miami to about 6-degree weather up in Indianapolis, which was quite the shock within a week for the College Football Playoff National Championship up there. And, you know, that was Georgia, Alabama. Alabama, as I like to say, was the boogeyman. I mean, they were the team to beat. And I had them as a favorite going into that game, even as a longtime Georgia fan myself. I said, until Georgia can beat Alabama, then they're not ready. And they've got to get to that point where they can get over the hump. Well, they did it, and it was in incredible fashion, as we all recall from last season. And it's been just living on cloud nine, right, for any Georgia Bulldog alumni, student, fan, not just here in the state of Georgia, but really across the country. And there are swells of fans everywhere. I mean, there's alumni association groups all over this country. And so I know it's been a very enjoyable run over the last year, right? And here we are again. I just can't believe it. I mean, I can't believe this. It's amazing. I knew Georgia would be good, but it's really, until you sit back and think about how difficult it is with so many good teams out there to get back to the championship game again, back to back, and have a chance to win back to back is unbelievable. In fact, I believe in the modern era of college football, there are only 3 teams that have done that. I know the last school to do that was Alabama, I believe in 2012. So it's been a while, and no team has won back-to-back national championships since the college football playoff began, where we have the semifinals and then the championship. And of course, college football playoffs are going to expand, not next year, but I believe the year after. So there'll be more teams involved. But for the Georgia Bulldogs to do what they've done, and I have to say, everybody loves the story of Stetson Bennett, the quarterback at Georgia, because, and we could talk about that, and I could talk about it all day long. I mean, everybody talks about one of the great sports movies being Rudy, right? Well, Stetson Bennett is very deserving of his own script. I mean, if you think about this, because he comes to Georgia, he's a walk-on, right? And he works with a practice squad, helps Georgia, you know, prepare for some of the big matchups during the season. and wants to start, wants to get his opportunity, doesn't quite see that. And so he leaves and goes to junior college and says, I'm going to be the best I can be wherever I'm at. And if I get some playing time, that'll make me better. So Stetson Bennett goes to junior college, right, and does extremely well, then decides I want to come back and give Georgia one more try. So he comes back to Georgia on scholarship this time and, waits and pushes and tries and works until the window opens. And Stetson Bennett gets the opportunity, and everybody says, well, this kid's too small. He's a walk-on. He can't get it done. He's not prepared in the big situations that these games often come to in the SEC, Southeastern Conference. By the way, best conference in college football, bar none. I mean, if you look at it, I think since the playoffs have started, we've had an SEC school in the playoffs every single year. It just, as they say, it just means more. So Stetson Bennett gets his chance and then does something unbelievable last year. Won some huge games for Georgia and wins a national championship. And I have to admit, I was one of those fans that said, Stetson Bennett needs to just ride off into the sunset. He's got his script. There'll be some sort of movie or made-for-TV show about Stetson Bennett and what he accomplished. And I thought, why is he coming back? I just couldn't believe that he would want to come back, after the Cinderella season last year.
Right.
And Stetson Bennett comes back, and look at him. He's a Heisman finalist. Who would have ever imagined? He helped Georgia win that game against Ohio State. We were on the ropes. Ohio State played amazing. And some would argue they were the better team that night. But at the end of the night, the scoreboard is what counts. And Georgia had one more point than Ohio State.
The magic point that saved the day.
Yes, and it's because there were some really key plays late in that fourth quarter. The greatest comeback in college football history, down 14 in the fourth quarter, and Stetson Bennett drives us down more than once, twice, puts us ahead. We had a 2-point conversion, I think, on that first touchdown drive, which got us within, striking distance so that if we were to score again and then kick the field goal, we'd be up by a point. He does it. They do it. And now Stetson Bennett is in Hollywood. It's like, can you write a better script?
At the door of the script.
and he can write the Hollywood script, folks. And then, he's done. And he does ride off into the sunset with an even better story than last year.
And Adam, I'm not sure if you were able to see this over the weekend. Our team who was in LA, Rob Hughes, Ella Dorsey, were on Santa Monica Pier, and they run into a Dawgs fan. I want to play that video.
Yes, I did.
I'm going to let Rob really explain what happened.
You would not believe our luck out here on Santa Monica Pier. Not only is there a sunrise of the century for us to enjoy, we thought we struck gold with that. Well, we really struck gold and got lucky to run across Stetson Bennett. You might know that name. You should. He's the quarterback of the Georgia Bulldogs. But we have his dad here, Stetson Bennett III. Mr. Bennett, I can't even believe how lucky we are to be out here and we just happened to run across you. Your son is the star of this team. There's a lot of good players, but certainly he's led this team this year and last. How cool is it to be his dad and be along on this ride with him?
Yeah, it's a great story. Just to have the dream, to have the vision, to come up with a plan and just work the plan. I tell everybody it's a testament to two things. One, how good the Lord is. He's so faithful to my family, and also hard work. When you've been told you can't do something, it's really not up to them. Just go to work.
So, obviously, is his dad, the trials and tribulations he's gone through are well documented. Goes to Georgia, goes to junior college, comes back to Georgia. Kirby Smart, his staff have talked about how they tried everything they could to keep him from playing. Not really intentionally, just because they wanted to make him prove it. He did that, led him to a national championship this year. You're on the cusp of back-to-back. I'm assuming he made a lot of phone calls to you when times were hard. What were those phone calls like?
Yeah, there were some frustrations. There were some times where just elation about how well he did at practice, but we never called the coaches. We never, it was like you want it, keep working. Get up and go to work. Keep your mouth shut and keep your back bent and go to work. That's kind of, you know, down at Georgia Southern, and he was at Georgia, Irk Russell said he liked those players that had a bad case of the wants. Well, that's exactly what little man, he's got a bad case of the wants.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And you know what? He was doubted. You know, he's not 6'4" with a rocket arm. Now, I'm sure he'd tell you that he does have plenty of arm strength. But what do you think about this game come Monday night? I mean, there's a lot on the table there for the Bulldogs and certainly your son.
Yeah, we've been. I graduated in 1996 from University of Georgia, and you know, been season ticket holder since that day. And so I'm not just here as a daddy; I'm here as a fan as well. And you know, we waited 41 years, and I got to see most of those years. And so to get to see not only Georgia reach the pinnacle, but have your son there is a really special time. And having the opportunity to play a really good TCU team. You know, we got the opportunity to meet the Duggins when at the Heisman ceremony, and great family, and just great young man, and his story is kind of similar to Stet's as well, but it's going to be an awesome day and a great weekend, and we've got a beautiful place here to do it.
Mr. Bennett, thank you so much for taking the time for this live interview. What a stroke of luck, guys. We come out here to enjoy this beautiful sunrise at Santa Monica Pier, tell you about one of the coolest destinations in all of LA, and we just happen to run across the star of the show, Stetson Bennett IV's dad, Stetson Bennett III from Blackshear, Georgia. Guys, can't believe it. Megan, what a cool story, right? Stetson's story was one we followed for years, and here he is with his Bulldogs on the cusp of a second national championship back-to-back.
That's right. I mean, he said it exactly how it is. Back to back. This
Yep.
is a moment for. This is his last game, by the way.
That's right.
So
That's
huge. All eyes. I feel like if you're going to look at any Bulldog, it's going to be Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, and Rob, great get for Rob there. I mean, what are the odds, right? You're standing on the Santa Monica Pier, and here comes the Bennett family, and Dad says, "Sure, I'll talk to you live on TV." I don't know if it gets any better than that. It really doesn't. I will say last year I was fortunate during the parade in Athens after Georgia won the national championship. I was trying to. The team was walking into the stadium, and I was trying to catch up to Stetson Bennett and see if I could talk to him. And the next thing I know, he goes over and hugs a woman, and I said, "That's got to be his mom." And it was Denise Bennett, and she kindly took a few minutes and spoke to us and was a part of our post-game parade coverage last year. They're a great family. There's pictures, if you look online, of Stetson Bennett as a young child going to Georgia games with his family, his mother and his father. I mean, it's a dream come true. It really is. And while Stetson's living his dream, he's also taking all of Bulldog Nation along with him, and we're living that dream with him. I went to the University of Georgia, so I graduated in 1997. I just dated myself, but that's okay. It's something special. Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot of tradition and a lot of history. I suffered through a lot of tough seasons as a student. If we won 7 games, we might get into a bowl. That was great. I mean, we were like, okay, we're in a bowl game. Well, now, after last season and what's happening this season, it's funny because the expectations change, and it's like, all of a sudden now I expect us to be in the top 5 recruiting class every year. I expect Georgia to be top 5 in the country every year. And I expect Georgia to be in consideration for the playoffs every year. And so much credit to the coaching staff, Kirby Smart. I mean, he's really raised the bar.
Yeah.
And, it's just we're all living this together. It's a beautiful thing.
And, going from being a student on the benches, following all the fun of the UGA Dawgs in Athens, to then following them as a journalist to this moment. I mean, I can't imagine that you can put that into words.
No, it's awesome. Listen, I mean, I've been in this industry as a broadcaster for 25 years, and, I have to pinch myself at times and step back and say, wow, this is really cool that I get to be on the front row of the action and bring that to you. And I hope that, when I'm doing my coverage and reporting from wherever it is, tonight I'll be in Athens. with all the Bulldog Nation as they're watching. We're going to go to Stegman Coliseum. About 3,000 students, faculty, staff, fans are going to be gathered inside there watching the game. That should be pretty special. But I hope that I give you a front row seat as well. That's my goal. But it has been just an unbelievable blessing. And you know, there are a handful of assignments I've had, you know, throughout my 25-year career. This is definitely top 5. You know, to follow Georgia last year, winning the national championship, going down to the Orange Bowl for the first round of the playoff, then Indy for the win. And then I was at the Peach Bowl, and I'm just like, this is something. I mean, this, who knows if this will ever happen again, you know? I mean, let's all soak this up and enjoy this while we can, and I hope that I can give you as much enjoyment out of it, you know, as I get by covering this. And as a kid, you know, grew up watching Georgia football, I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I mean, this is really fun. This is great stuff.
If you need me, I can pinch you. It's real.
It's real. I know, right?
But take me, you know, you talk about being on the front lines
Yeah.
and being able to take people with you for this experience, because that is essentially what we want to do on here, and why we're doing this live stream and talking to everybody in the comments, is we want to share this moment with people, and you did that in Indianapolis. Walk me
Yes.
through how that was for you, how that coverage was, how the outcome was, and then whether those feelings are coming up now again.
Oh, yeah. You know, I don't know that those feelings will ever go away. You know, just to be a part of a national championship in some small way, even if I'm working my tail off like we do when we go to these assignments. And, you know, a lot of people are like, man, that sounds great. That sounds like a real fun assignment. And it is. But it is a lot of work. I mean, you look at what our team has been doing in Los Angeles, and they've been working around the clock, and then you've got the time difference out there. And so it's a lot of work, but man, I mean, I'll never forget my experience in Indianapolis. Let's talk about that. So it was twofold for me. So Georgia's playing in the national championship against Alabama. I was very nervous. I felt like they had a good chance after losing the SEC championship to Alabama. Like, maybe this is the time, right? It was so cold there. I can't even tell you. 6 degrees when we got there. And I have family that's in Indianapolis. I was born in Indianapolis. But when I was about 6 years old, my family moved here to the Atlanta area. So, you know, it was like a homecoming of sorts.
Right.
You know, and I actually got to visit family while I was there, and I went into the stadium. You know, in between my live shots that we were doing, I have a cousin that lives in Indianapolis, and he and I went in and experienced it. He told me, he said, Adam, listen, he said, I've never seen an SEC football game, and I know how much this one means to you. Let me work on getting us some seats. He's a Colts fan. He knows how to find those seats, and he did. And it's an experience, you know, that'll be with me the rest of my life. And I got to also do some really cool things, one of which, you know, you see our team doing this out in Los Angeles. We like to take you there so you get a feel for it. You know, what do you do when you go to these cities? What's there to do and see? One of the things that I got to do, which one do we want to do first? Maybe the Hoosiers?
I think the
Okay.
Hoosiers would be great.
So, any sports fan will know it's probably one of their favorite sports movies called Hoosiers, right? About this high school basketball team in Indiana that was really small, weren't expected to do much of anything, went on to win the state championship. And the gym where they filmed this movie, Gene Hackman was the star, he was the head coach in the movie Hoosiers. This gym is available and open to the public. It's like a museum now. And it's like a 100-year-old gym. The way gyms were, you know, back in the day in Indiana. Indiana basketball, is, as you all know, is special, and you've heard about it. And we went there, and we actually got to tour this gym. They let you shoot around. Unbelievable. And the story I got to tell is pretty cool. So I think we want to show our viewers this story from last year. If you didn't get a chance to see it, check this out.
All right, welcome back. Many college football fans making the trip to Indianapolis for Monday night's national championship game between the Georgia Bulldogs and Alabama Crimson Tide. And while they're in town, there are several sights to see, including one of the most historic gymnasiums in the nation. CBS 46's Adam Murphy is live inside the Hoosier Gym with this story. Adam, what's going on?
Savannah, let me tell you, this is home to my favorite sports movie of all time. The movie Hoosiers was filmed in this gymnasium back in the 80s, and not much has changed since then. Tonight, there's a high school basketball going on inside here. So let's get this started by saying, welcome to Indiana basketball. 30 miles east of Indianapolis, where there is farmland as far as the eye can see, there's a famous gymnasium in a place called Knightstown. The historic Hoosier Gym was built in 1921 and featured in the 1985 film Hoosiers, starring Gene Hackman.
Welcome to Indiana basketball.
The year before the virus hit, 70,000 visitors from around the country visited this gym.
Neil Schoenfeld helps to preserve this century-old building, which represents the history of Indiana basketball.
A lot of these country schools didn't have enough boys for football. Basketball was king. And on a Friday and Saturday night, this was the social gathering place of the community.
Should be open, swinging around the end of that fence. Now, boys, don't get caught watching a paint dry.
The Associated Press did a poll last year, I believe, and which they do frequently, all kinds of polls, but they ask people around the country, what's your favorite sports movie of all time? Hoosiers, #1.
Today, the Hoosier Gym is open to the public, giving people like myself an opportunity to relive one of the greatest sports movies of all time, and even take a jump shot.
It makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck just to be in this place.
Russ Stevens made the trip from Georgia to see this special place. It was on his bucket list ahead of Monday night's college football national championship game in Indy.
In this movie, the underdog pulled it off, and it can survive. And, you know, we talk about the same sense with Georgia and Alabama in their time. I mean, it's time for Georgia to really get over the hump and make this thing happen.
And back live here in the Hoosier Gym, you see the Go Hickory sign from the movie is still up on the wall. They're hosting a high school basketball game here tonight. And just like the movie, this place is packed with fans. We're live tonight inside the Hoosier Gym in Knightstown, Indiana. Adam Murphy, CBS 46 News.
You haven't aged a day, my friend.
Well, thank you. You know, everybody said starting out in this industry, gosh, you look like a kid, you look so young. It's finally paying off, Maria. It is finally paying off. And you know what? Looking at that, I mean, looking at what happened in Indianapolis, it was a Hoosier script. It was a Hoosier story. It's like this, you know, the school that hadn't won in a long time, or in Hoosier's case, hadn't won ever, you know, goes on to beat the big school in Alabama and wins it all. So there's some irony there with that story. Also, though, I want to share another cool story with you. When we were up there, of course, if you ever visit Indianapolis, one of the things, they love sports. All of Indianapolis does. But one of the things they are just passionate about up there, as you might imagine, the Indianapolis 500 and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's quite the spectacle. As they say, the greatest spectacle in racing, and we went there. I thought we were going to get like a little bus tour around the track. Boy, was I surprised. Take a look at this one.
Already ready to say hello is Adam Murphy. He joins us live from Indy. And Adam, you've been checking out what the city has to offer before the big game.
Yeah, hey guys, we're live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a very special place. You must put this on your to-do list the next time you're in town. And we're at the museum, which is in the infield. Check this out, where the history is rich. This is the racing capital of the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a must-see while in town for the college football national championship.
We love having people come to this community and use our platform.
Doug Bowles is president of IMS and known for his Hoosier hospitality.
I think what makes Indianapolis so special is just our passion for celebrating accomplishments, and sports has been one that we've really adopted, and bringing people in, whether they're from Indianapolis or Indiana or from around the country.
We were given the VIP treatment with a trip around the track in a Corvette pace car, reaching speeds of up to 140 miles per hour.
235,000 permanent seats that we see as we go out on the racetrack, so the world's largest sporting venue. We get almost 300,000 people in here on a race day.
And in the middle of the racetrack, there's a one-of-a-kind museum with more than 34 Indy 500 race car winners on display.
In some cases, we have the 1911 Marmon Wasp, the inaugural winner of the Indianapolis 500.
The greatest spectacle in racing provided us with a memorable moment when our GoPro camera blew off the hood of the car. And to top it off, we got to kiss the bricks at the end. An Indy 500 tradition.
33 drivers take the green flag every Memorial Day Sunday to compete in the Indy 500. 142 days from now, we'll get to do the 106th running of the Indy 500s.
And what a thrill it is, guys. Hey, and for just $15, you can enjoy this museum, which includes, look at this, the championship trophy with all of the Indy 500 winners on it. And you know what? I know you wonder what happened to that GoPro. I found it out on the track. It's in one piece, a little bit scuffed up, but I got a great story out of it, right?
You sure did. Does it still work?
It still works.
Not
it
bad.
still works.
I think the people from GoPro will be calling you for a commercial sometime soon. Thanks very much, Adam. Nice job, buddy.
You still have that
I do.
GoPro.
I do. And matter of fact, I took it with me to the Peach Bowl last weekend and got some great footage. We went on the field after the game. We were helping our sports crew. They needed us to get onto the riser for the trophy presentation. And then I went about also interviewing fans because Emily, as you know, Emily Gagnon was out there and she was going around focused on trying to get some of the players. And let me tell you something, guys. That was an experience. Like moments after Georgia wins and beats Ohio State by 1 point, as you know, the stadium was just going bananas. And I run out onto the field. I'm like, wait, am I supposed to be out here? You know, running out. And I tried to take a minute, Maria, just to like soak it up. I'm on the 50-yard line, you know, looking up at the roof inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Players are everywhere. Fans are in the stands cheering. It was a real treat and quite the experience. And then we got onto the riser for the trophy presentation, and then they shot the confetti all the way up into the air. That one surprised me. I'd forgotten they do that, but confetti was everywhere. And then I was told that we needed to go into the coaches' press conference room because the coaches would come in and a couple of players. Emily was busy interviewing other players still. So I go in there and we see Ohio State's coach, Coach Day, and C.J. Stroud, their quarterback. They give a press conference. The tone was really down and sad, as you would imagine. And then they walk out and Kirby comes in and Stetson Bennett and Bullard on defense. Those guys were the three that were on the podium. And I mean, I was just like, I can't believe I'm sitting here and experiencing this. This is so wild. And I wasn't going to ask a question because I was one of those guys, I was like, you know what? I mean, there were a lot of national sports guys that were there asking a lot of the sports statistical type questions. And then it dawned on me, I said, you know, one question that hasn't been asked is how long will Georgia enjoy this moment before they turn the page and begin to prepare for TCU in the championship? And I said, how often do you get to sit in a press room like this, 10 feet away from Kirby Smart and Stetson Bennett? So I decided I was going to ask a question. It was the last question of the night. And guys, I know this sounds silly, but my heart was like it was going to pop out of my chest. I was so nervous. It was like, it reminded me, it's kind of funny. It reminded me of my middle school or, you know, early high school days where I was going to ask a girl to a dance, you know, and I like dial like 3 or 4 numbers. And then I hang up, my heart's pounding. I'm like, oh, this is so nerve wracking. I was like, Adam, just ask the question, just be quick and don't slur words or sound stupid or something like that. And it went off without a hitch. So that was cool.
That's what they should put in the Stetson movie whenever it comes out.
Maybe I'll, you know, get a cameo in there or something, who knows.
Well, let's talk about tonight. We have a special coming up where we're really taking people through LA, through Athens, through all of these hot spots where football fandom is going to be. You are a major part of that, a significant part of that, following these guys for as long as you have. What can people expect?
I think it's going to be a great ball game. I think everybody will be on the edge of their seats. I mean, you know, I think a lot of people feel like, and you hear Georgia's near a 2-touchdown favorite. Mm-hmm. Listen, TCU got here for a reason, okay? Georgia got here for a reason. I do think Georgia's going to play with a chip on their shoulder because they weren't pleased with their overall performance against Ohio State. I think Ohio State had a really good game plan, and they had us, on the ropes. So I think Georgia comes out and realizes we can't play in a game that's that close. We got to do some damage early. So I think they come out with a chip on their shoulder. I think most of the guys are healthy and rested. I expect them to do some special things tonight. I think Georgia wins this ball game. I think it's a little closer than people thought. I go with 34-24. Georgia wins back-to-back national championships.
And for all the new dogs out there, myself included, who are the players to watch out for tonight?
So Max Duggan is a Heisman candidate and quarterback for TCU. And, you think about Georgia, they've played a lot of really good quarterback-type teams. I mean, they had C.J. Stroud. He was a Heisman finalist. They played him. He's Ohio State. Played him last week. They got Max Duggan. He's a Heisman finalist. They got him tonight. They've played some other, great. I mean, Bryce Young in the championship last year, which was earlier this year. They've played, some really good quarterbacks, and that is somebody to watch out for. I think, we've got to get some pressure on Max Duggan. We can't let him have as much time as C.J. Stroud had. So I think if Georgia does that, I think, and defense plays strong, they've got a really good chance. I think Stetson Bennett, is and it's not only Stetson Bennett on offense, but I also think I'm hoping that we have a big game from Brock Bowers in the tight end position and Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington had a little ankle contusion, but it's a game time decision. I heard he's from California, and his mom's going to be in the stands. Do you think he's going to play? I do. His mom's there. Come on.
We'll have to find out and see. Again, kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I know you'll be following it from start to finish. I will try to keep up with my limited sports knowledge, but thank you so much for coming on here.
I love
it. Getting us excited.
It's going to be a special night. Let's get this done. 2 in a row. How about them dogs?
How about them dogs? Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, so Adam will be in Athens. You can make sure to catch him and all that fun. Hey, I want to let you know what we got still in store as we continue with our pregame coverage. Fred Khalil is going to be joining us here shortly, along with our sports producer and photojournalist, Scott Pennyman. They'll be chatting football, the X's and O's, all of the excitement. Hey, if you want to let Fred know anything, drop it in the comments below. We'll be going through those, interacting with you guys a bit more. But let's talk a little bit about LA, a little more, I should say. For those of us that are going to be watching from Georgia, myself included, we are taking you through the experience of being in California, especially being around there at a time like this. This is Santa Monica Pier. It's a rainy day right now in Los Angeles, but that is not stopping the excitement of this game from coming through, and that will continue on as we get closer and closer to that 7:30 p.m. hour. If you are in California, that is going to be 4:30 p.m. your time on the West Coast, west side of things. And then taking a look at SoFi Stadium, I think Patrick Quinn described it best as a spaceship. He called this stadium a spaceship, just at the architectural magnet that it's become, and now it's going to be the center of what is expected to be a historic game. All right, I'm going to have Fred Khalil jump in here with me, and I'm going to take my mic off and switch out with Scott Pennyman. But Fred, you are the man of the hour. This is a historic game, and who better to talk about it than the Atlanta Fred Khalil?
Oh, listen to you. You're too nice. But yeah, it's going to be a great night. I think I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be huge. It was huge last year. It'll be bigger this year. TCU is a team that a lot of people haven't seen around here a lot, but they're pretty good. They actually played Georgia in a bowl game a few years back. I believe it was the Gator Bowl. Gary Patterson was the head coach. Gary Patterson was the head coach of this team up until the off season. So these are really his guys, and Sonny Dykes it's kind of taken over and done a great job with it. But
And we've been able to follow all of that fun since the guys touched down at LAX. We were there streaming out media day, that head coach's press conference. Just a lot of excitement that's wrapped around this. I'm going to give you a rough rundown of the streaming desk. This is your official introduction here.
My first time here, yeah.
We got our comments going here. I've let people know to ask you whatever the questions they have, as well as you and Scott talking just sports and all of what we can expect out of tonight.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I'm going to switch out with Scott here. I'll let you take it
so
away.
Do I need to scoot down this way then?
Scoot down that way. He'll be joining
Scoot
you
down
here
this
shortly.
way. Okay, come on, Scotty, get in here. Producer Scott Penniman is ready to jump in. Yeah, man. Now, I don't have an earpiece on here. Should I have an earpiece in too?
You do not need one.
Okay, I don't need one. Good. Come on in, Scott. Scott's got one.
Go ahead. All right, we got Scott.
So let's talk about this. We've got, Let's Go Dogs. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. Okay, Go Dogs. I'll be glad when this is over. Nancy says, glad when this is over. Okay. I guess there's a lot of nerves here, but, you know, really when I think about TCU, and again, I just said this, but I'm going to say it again, is Gary Patterson, the guy who built this program. He's now the defensive analyst at the University of Texas for head coach Steve Sarkisian down there. But you know, they kind of ran him out, Scott. They ran Gary Patterson out, and this is a guy that, I mean, he had 6 conference championships, including a Big 12 title in 2014, and they send the guy packing. And now, you know, Sonny Dykes has come in and done a great job too because he's got him here in the championship game.
They were smart to send him packing, right?
Were they? I guess so. I don't know.
No.
I guess you're. No, go ahead.
No, but they've. It seems like under Sonny Dykes, sometimes, you know how it works, Fred.
Yeah.
You know, and the time you spend playing college football, sometimes there needs to just be a new voice. And I think that maybe Sonny Dykes took some of those same guys, provided a little more inspiration, and got a little more out of them than Patterson was able to get, you know?
You know, and that's the team that can score. You know, TCU's proven they can score. I mean, they went after Michigan pretty good.
Wow. I mean, it was kind of crazy, you know, just watching the game because you thought at some point Michigan was going to
wake up.
They were going to wake up. They were going to start getting stops. We're still waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Jim Harbaugh's waiting for another job, right? That might have been a distraction for those kids. I kind of felt bad for them putting through all that. But
well, once he's coaching the Panthers or somebody, then maybe he'll feel a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, it was just looking at TCU. I mean, I was even amazed myself at just how poised they look against Michigan and just how ready they were and how prepared they were to play. So I guess that's a tribute to Sonny Dykes.
Well, I think for Georgia, the key is going to be trying to control those big receivers at TCU. I mean, those guys, when they get out in space, I mean, they're tall.
Yeah.
You know, and defensive backs typically are not.
Right.
So, you know, if they can get the ball to those guys, that's going to be key. But I don't know if they can. I don't know if they'll have time to even throw the ball.
I think that's it right there. I think when you look at both of these two teams, when you look at up front, I think that's going to be where the game is going to be won at. If Max Duggan has time to get the ball downfield, the guys like Quentin Johnson, who's going to be a top 15 draft pick, if he has time to get to those guys, then yeah, I mean, they can really make some plays. But the way Georgia's offensive line is up front, I think that's where their money is going to be made, and I think that's going to be the difference tonight.
Well, it's like your old coach, probably the first coach you ever had, probably told you, the quarterback can't throw if he's on his back, right?
Yes.
Can't complete a pass if he's on his back, and that's probably Max Duggan is probably going to take some shots tonight. I mean, I hate to say that, but he's going to be hit.
Just time to throw. I mean, if you look at UGA the entire season, that's when they normally have their most success, when they're getting after the quarterback. Those guys as we saw, I think UGA has a good secondary.
Oh yeah.
But as we've seen, especially against Ohio State.
Yeah, right. Ohio State lit them up.
No matter how good your secondary is, if that quarterback has time to find receivers downfield, they can make some plays.
And Max Duggan is a guy that's shown he can make plays, even when he doesn't have a whole lot of time. I mean, he was a Heisman finalist. He was right there with Stetson in New York at the Downtown Athletic Club there as a finalist of the Heisman Trophy. And he is a good player. And like you said, that big receiver on the outside that guy's going to be tough to stop for defensive backs. But, it's going to be an interesting night, I think. I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
You're going to be seeing him play on Sundays. That's going to be a fun matchup with Ringo. And, Ringo kind of had some trouble last week against Keely Ringo against the Ohio State receivers. Understandably so. They have a couple guys who are going to be also playing on Sunday. So that was expected a little bit. But I think, once again, that the key to the game, and I think what they will be able to do, is get pressure on Max Duggan And if you can do that, I think that affects everything TCU wants to do. Now, they're also their starting running back, too.
He's back.
He's kind of been questionable.
He's hurt, yeah.
His ability, if he can run the football, that's going to help out that offense substantially, you know.
Well, TCU, here it is. TCU 4th in scoring, Georgia's 5th in scoring defense.
Wow.
So you've got two top fives going at one another, TCU's offense and Georgia's defense. So that's something that's going to be interesting to watch tonight as well.
You know, and the thing, you know, when you look at these championship games, they always seem to have like a lot of scoring.
Yeah.
You know,
and that doesn't necessarily mean they're playing bad defense either. I mean,
no,
you know, like you look a couple of years ago. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but a couple of years ago in the Rose Bowl, remember when Georgia played Oklahoma?
Oh yeah.
And it was I want to say it was like 54-48 final in overtime. But Georgia's defense played great in that game. I mean, Baker Mayfield in college was really good. I know you don't think he's very good now in the NFL, but in college, Baker Mayfield was good. Yeah. Those dudes scored 48 points, but Georgia got enough stops really late in the game, and that, you know, that sealed the deal and got Georgia to the championship game.
It seems in these college football playoff games, you have to score points. You know, I think what plays a big role is the amount of time they have to prepare. And I think offensively, you can maybe stay a step ahead of, you know, the defensive preparation when you have a month to get ready for these games.
That's true.
You know, and so I think that a lot of these offenses are really prepared for these playoff games. They probably have a lot of tricks that they probably didn't show in the first 12 games of the season.
They've always practiced plays at the end of practice, you know.
Exactly.
For these times.
Right. And I think that gives maybe the offense a little bit of an edge when it comes time for these playoff games. So, once again, I think UGA can't come out lightly in what they. I think from a talent standpoint, look, from a pure talent standpoint, they should win this football game.
Oh yeah, easily. And I think they will.
But I think Michigan thought they would too.
They did.
You know, so and I think that's kind of what you have to be careful of is that this team is for real. This isn't just the little team that could anymore. These guys are for real.
Well, they were the number 3 seed, you know, so I mean, right? They were the number 3 seed, right? Ohio State was the 4 seed. So, and the 3 seed knocked off the 2 seed in Michigan. So, I mean, ask Michigan if they're for real, right?
I got to admit, when I watched them lose the Big 12 title game to Kansas State, and they had like one of those last possessions, they had like 4 downs to get 2 yards and they couldn't do it.
Right.
I didn't know how for real they were. However, and that may kind of foreshadow to tonight. I mean, maybe that tells you that their offensive line isn't as strong as it needs to be able to hold up against Georgia's front.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was kind of questioning how good they actually were and how real they actually were. So it really surprised me when I saw them just handle Michigan for 60 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can score.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. That's the big thing is they can score, but can they score, you know, against Georgia? The depth, one thing Kirby Smart has done is built not only the front sevens and the front line, but he's built depth in both lines. And they just keep them coming, man. They just keep rotating them in, and that's what's going to make it hard for any team.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of crazy, like, watching as many UGA games as we did.
Yeah.
How many of those short screens, short passes did they break for big yards?
Underneath, those little underneath screens that, because they get the guys out in space. When you do that, you got a guy in the screen, he steps back, and then you got linebackers out there, and then before you know it, you're into the secondary, and then those guys are, boom.
I mean, just how many times did you see a quick screen, Kenny McIntosh,
that's it,
60 yards go?
Right, exactly. You know, and somebody's got to know where Brock Bowers is too.
Yeah,
at all times. I mean, that's, you know, Darnell Washington, of course, is going to give it a go, obviously, and then, and he's a big dude, but Brock Bowers, I mean, that guy is amazing. That kid,
just the ability to turn 5-yard receptions into 50-yard gains.
You know, you talk about those little step back passes. That's what they do with him. You know, they just hit him quick and boom, he's gone. He's sneaky fast, man.
Yeah, he's such a unique player because, you know, he's kind of like your hybrid, you know, you could line up as a fullback, tight end, wide receiver. He's just a tough matchup for anybody and everybody. And I think that it seems like in all these games for UGA, he plays a huge role just because there's so many different ways to get him the ball. And I think that's effective because they're so good up front on the offensive line.
Well,
you can do anything offensively when your offensive line can push the other guys around.
Right.
You can throw quick screens, quick pitch outs.
Hand the ball off.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, right? I mean, that dictates the game, really.
Right. When you're afforded the opportunity, and I think, once again, I said that last week, that's going to be the difference, is just UGA's ability to be able to control the line of scrimmage.
So let's see, what do we have here? How do we read these comments? I don't know.
What are they saying to us?
I don't know. Kathy Lanning, when did she comment? That was an hour ago. Okay, that was not us here.
Have any good questions?
8 minutes. Go Dogs. Edna says, go Dogs. All right, Edna. Go Dogs, baby. Nancy Reynolds, I'll be glad when this is over.
That's the spirit.
Whoa.
That's the
Come
spirit,
on.
Nancy.
Come on, Nancy. What's
Really?
wrong? Kathy Lanning says, go Dogs. Oh, we're getting more here. Yeah, Edna says, go Dogs. All right, there we go. We got just mostly just go Dogs. We'll be watching that.
Kind of hot, man.
All right, go ahead, man. Scott's worked up. He's fired up. He might line up tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But we're getting ready for the big game tonight, the College Football Playoff Championship game, 7:30. TCU and Georgia from Los Angeles and SoFi Stadium, the new home of the Chargers and the Rams. And it is a very modern stadium. Who called the stadium something, Maria? Who called the stadium something?
A spaceship.
Who said that?
Patrick Quinn.
Patrick Quinn. All right, leave it to Patrick to come up with something like that. But yeah, it is a cool stadium. You know, I had a college buddy of mine was a project manager on that stadium.
Really?
Yeah, when they were building it. Yeah.
Wow.
He's retired as a sales guy, and he's project manager on that. So don't sit in section 421 tonight. No,
That's one of the most impressive stadiums I think I've seen. I mean, obviously Mercedes-Benz is a tremendous stadium too, but SoFi, man, I mean,
pretty cool. Yeah, I mean that's a retractable roof as well. I mean,
yeah,
it is a spaceship. It is kind of neat.
I don't understand any football stadium right now that doesn't have a retractable roof. I mean, coming from the Midwest, I mean, it's just kind of crazy, right? I mean, it's just.
Where we come from, you got to have a roof. You got to have a roof, man, or you're going to play in the snow, man. I mean, right? The three words that we never wanted to hear growing up: lake effect, snow. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I remember, getting 170 inches one year, all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's just kind of, I think that. Especially a place like SoFi, that's where Super Bowl was at last year, right?
Yeah,
This is a tremendous venue to be able to watch football. It looks great. I've never been there, but I could just, when you see it on TV, it looks like the ultimate football palace.
Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah, it looks very cool, and it's interesting. It's cool for these young guys to get a chance to play there. Where the NFL guys do.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and just a
lot better than the old Coliseum.
Oh yeah.
I've been there. That place was, contrary to popular belief, I was not there for the Olympics.
Well,
when they built the Coliseum.
Oh no, yeah, that was the Roman. That
was like 1960.
Is that thing even still up?
Yeah, I think when did they tear it down? I don't know. I think they left. I know they probably left part of it up for sure, right, because the historic marker.
That's pretty cool.
Of the Olympics.
But yeah,
the last Olympics in '84. I think the first one was.
Just 56. When you think about, I'm sitting there watching with UGA. There's so many great tools on offense, man. I mean, just when you look at, and we'll see if Darnell Washington returns tonight too. I mean, that's just so much for TCU to have to consider.
With all due respect, even if Darnell doesn't come back, look at those backs.
Yeah.
They just keep bringing those backs at you. Boom, boom. One's tired, bring another one in. Here we go. Bam, right, bam, bam. And then when you're tired there, then Brock Bowers for like 10 or 15, and he's going to pound you. You're going to pay when you tackle those guys.
I wouldn't kind of his role in his offense, and this to me is not a slight to Stetson Bennett, but remember those early University of Miami teams in the early 2000s, where there was just so much around the quarterback at that time, Ken Dorsey,
right,
that the game was kind of made easy for him. And sometimes the quarterback doesn't get their just due just because there's so many good weapons around the quarterback. I think that's kind of with Stetson. There's so many obviously you have the great offensive line. You got three backs in the backfield that would probably start for any team in the country. You have two tight ends who might be first-round draft picks at some point. You have so many good targets on the outside, and you have such a smart, no pun intended, right? You have such a smart head coach in Kirby Smart, who just knows how to move those pieces, put those pieces in the right places. It's just, I personally think. And here's a question. Do you think this UGA team is better than last year's UGA team?
That's hard to say. I don't know if it is or not. I mean, it's almost the same team. I mean, they lost a lot of guys off that defense but they've just been able to reload, which is kind of Kirby's trademark, really, you know. Back to the tight end, that's always a quarterback's best friend. I mean, you think about it. Go back to, if you want to look at an NFL Hall of Famer who ended his career here, Tony Gonzalez. I mean, he was Matt Ryan's best friend because you check down, you know, you're back, all of a sudden you're in trouble. Where's the tight end? There he is, boom.
Yeah.
And, you know, he saves you a lot of times.
And in their offense, they're so creative in how they get the ball to their tight ends.
Right.
We talked about those bubble screens that they run with Brock Bowers, the end and arounds. Their
the end around too. You got to be careful. Yeah.
Right. Their creativity as far as getting the ball to Brock Bowers, I think, just ends up being such a difference in everything that they do. And I just really believe that when you have that, and you have Darnell Washington, just once again, in any other offense in this country, Darnell Washington is a tight end one.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. He's the man. Well, he still is the man. I mean, but they use him more to block, really.
Right.
And then they do well because he can. You know what I mean, that's it. I mean, even Tony Gonzalez, he even said, hey, because he had to block. That's why they liked him, because he blocked well.
Right.
You know, I mean, so.
I mean, there's not another offense in the country that he would be.
Oh gosh, there's no way.
A number 2 guy, basically a blocking tight end. You know, but that just goes to show the depth that UGA has at that position.
They've got a lot. Let's see if we have any more other questions over here. Good afternoon to everyone on Atlanta News First. Go Dogs. Here it is, University of Georgia, Southeastern Conference champions, national champions. Wow. Kathy here is giving us like the whole deal back from Sanford Stadium, the campus size, TCU. The campus is much smaller.
Yeah.
Enrollment is much smaller. It's a private school.
You know, I call TCU, I call them the little team that could. Like, if they weren't playing anyone else in this game, you'd be rooting for them to win.
Sure.
Just because they weren't even ranked to start the season.
Right.
And so to find yourself, you know.
And to run their coach off the way they did last year, right? I mean, that's.
Right. You know.
I mean, that's something too. You know, you think about that. I mean, the guy that won, he's got a statue outside. It's like, hey, get lost. You know. So it's.
Yeah.
It's interesting. This game is. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and just like I said, sometimes when you get a new coach, it just gives you it just kind of rejuvenates you, right? Like we've seen it before in pro sports. Just remember those early, and I may be going back kind of far, those Tampa Bay Buccaneer teams and early. Tony Dungy was a great Hall of Fame head coach.
Yeah, no doubt.
He couldn't get them over the top. And then they brought in John Gruden, who was, you know, maybe, and it's not to say that he was a better football coach, but he was a better fit for what they were doing at that time. And then he gets them over the top. So I think that's what happens sometimes in sports, is that maybe sometimes teams just get a little too used to just hearing the same voice.
That could be.
And it gets stale. And sometimes that new voice, maybe with some innovative ideas, can get you over the top.
That might be. So that's what you're saying for Sonny Dykes, huh?
And we're going to be sitting here after they lose 62-0. Like,
exactly,
well, maybe he.
Yeah. I think Georgia hangs at least 40 on them tonight, I think.
Yeah, but remember, it's entirely possible that they could hang 40
and lose.
And this could be a close football game.
Well, look at Ohio State and Georgia, right? Well,
right.
I mean, that was a track meet, man.
It was.
And it was a good game, and it ended up.
I said last week, this game will be an easier game than, I think the hardest opponent that they will face and have faced the whole year was Ohio State. Just from a talent standpoint alone, from a talent and execution standpoint, TCU, I don't believe, can match what Ohio State brought to the table.
Probably not.
Just man for man, talent for talent, quarterback, offensive line. That's really where the real difference is. Quarterback, offensive line, wide receivers, running backs. I don't think
Ohio State, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
You know, the Ohio State wide receivers, man, they did put a lot of pressure on Georgia's secondary, man.
Yeah, I mean.
They did. I mean, they lit them up.
Right, and just think about it. I mean, they had Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to be a first-round pick next year.
Sure, oh yeah.
Ohio State has 5-star receivers all around. That's what they're really kind of known for.
Right.
So it was an interesting test just going into that game. I just wanted to see great defense, great offense. Georgia gave up some plays, but ultimately they found a way to pull it out. You know?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did. They pulled it out in the end, man. I mean, once a coach told me one time a long time ago, it's like, defense will get you to the playoffs. Offense helps you win the playoffs.
And ultimately, it helped on
special teams. You got to be able to score.
it ultimately helped on special teams when Ohio State's kicker missed a kick by like 50 yards.
Yeah, that didn't hurt, right? They were set up to win, and then they lost. Yeah.
When the kick went, close to the parking lot, that really helps.
That was no good. Yeah, exactly. Let's see if we got any more questions over here. You would have been in TCU's cheering corner if they weren't facing Georgia. Okay.
See, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I said. If TCU was playing anyone else, you'd be rooting for them.
Yeah, sure.
Just because it's a great story.
Well, they're the perfect underdog team. Texas Christian University, a small school, right? Fort Worth, Texas, on the other side of Dallas, but their program has been good for a long time.
Right.
I mean, Gary Patterson revived it, but years ago, in the old Southwest Conference, they were pretty good.
I mean, it's a great story. If they were playing anyone else, if this was TCU versus
Michigan or
Ohio State, you'd be rooting for TCU
course,
just because it's such a great story.
It is a good story, but
we're not doing that tonight.
No, that ain't happening. So
because they're playing the Dogs, and we want them to win. And just think about that. In this college football playoff era, no team has won back-to-back. How special do you think that is for them to get?
I mean, that would be huge. You think of Kirby Smart and what he's done. Does it put him up there with his old boss, Nick Saban? It gets him closer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick's got a lot of chips in there, so it's going to be a while. But, I mean, they're close.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt, they're friends.
Right.
They're close on the thing, and I think that personally they're close too.
Yeah.
And Kirby learned a lot coaching for Nick Saban, and he's taken that blueprint and used it, and
that's why they always say, man, you can't teach everyone your secrets, all your secrets, man.
Right.
Look, Nick Saban is messed up. He taught Kirby all his secrets, and now look at him. Came back to beat him.
Yeah.
Now he's,
Well, Kirby, you know what? I really like, I talked with Ray Goff, the old Georgia coach who recruited Kirby Smart to the University of Georgia. And still, he just said, Kirby is such a good guy.
Yeah.
And he loves the kids, he loves the players, and that's why players play for him, And I think when, Ray has a whole lot of respect for Kirby. I do too. I mean, I remember him when he was a player at Georgia.
Yeah.
He was a really good safety, defensive back. You know?
Yes.
He got a little shot in the pros for a little bit, I think, with the Colts.
Okay.
And then started his coaching career. And his dad was a coach in South Georgia.
Yeah.
Kirby's dad's a legendary high school coach in South Georgia. So, coaching's in his blood. Football definitely is in his blood. So, yeah.
I can't tell you, I've never seen a football practice as high pace as the Dogs practice was last week as they were preparing for Ohio State.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's just how they practice.
Yeah.
I have never in my life
seen
people there's constant.
You got the horn man, right?
You go to Ohio State practice, and guys, they're doing their drills and everything. At the Dogs practice, I didn't even know who was who.
That's where they want it.
You have guys going guys coming this way, three
That's
number
how they
twos.
like it. They don't want to know who's who, right?
And I felt like, in my mind I'm thinking, I don't know if the Dogs are going to win this game, but I can guarantee you they will be the most in-shape football team in this game.
Yeah, from running around in practice, But they're, that's you play fast, and if you want to play fast, you have to practice fast. And I think that's what Kirby does. No time between drills, baby. Let's move it all the time. The whistle blows, and those guys sprint to the next drill.
Oh man, it was a
to
sight to watch.
And that's the way, that's the way it should be. That's the way they like it.
Everything fast.
Yeah.
That's what they always say.
Play fast.
They always say that's the big difference
Play fast,
between the SEC teams and the rest of the country, right? Is their speed on both sides of the ball, especially up front.
Fast and physical.
Yeah.
That's what they like to say.
Right. That's
So
SEC
we'll see
football.
Fast and physical. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. What do you got
Tonight,
All right.
we've been told to wrap it up. So
our coverage tonight.
Our coverage tonight. Yeah, we've got a special. What time's that special on? 7 o'clock. 6:30 and 7 o'clock. A&F Plus, right? You're watching A&F Plus right now. So we'll have a special here at 6:30, and then 7 o'clock on WANF, Atlanta News First. So you be sure to watch that we'll get you ready for kickoff.
We're gonna be here all night, man. We're gonna be here with you all night from every angle, live out in SoFi, live in Los Angeles, and we'll have people back here too. We got this thing covered from top to bottom.
All over the place, man. We'll be everywhere. WANF is everywhere.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah,
I need one of your mics.
You can have mine.
Two mics up here.
Yeah.
Perfect. Fred Khalil, Scott Pennyman, thank you guys, taking us into a deep dive, perfect, of this championship game. And it's one that a lot of people are going to be watching, even people who might not be diehard football fans. It is just such a sight to see this historic moment, TCU or UGA, hopefully UGA. Whichever way it goes, it's just going to be a historic night. Thank you guys. All right, guys, I'm going to mic myself up in the true OCC fashion. We like to keep this raw and real up here so you guys get to watch me do this. But coming up, I do want to take you through what you can expect moving forward as we continue our wall-to-wall, taking you through the pregame coverage up until that kickoff happens at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Let me actually mic myself up before I forget to do this, because I will talk to you guys until the end of time. All right, I'm gonna put this, by the way, a quick mic demo is part of my mic, the battery actually, so that you guys can hear me. But let's talk about what's ahead here. We'll be touching base with our team out in LA. We have a team of 10 that have been there since Thursday, just following the Dogs every step of the way from the moment they landed at LAX. We actually tried to beat them there so that we could be there to capture that landing, all the way through media day, all the way through the head coach's press conference, which we got to hear from Coach Kirby Smart, Sonny Dykes, about how they're treating this game, and the mutual respect was in the room, the seriousness, the focus. You can expect the focus from Kirby Smart to be on the game, and he said that himself. He said he and his guys are not paying attention to what the media may be reporting or what any fan might be saying. Their focus is on getting through the game. I usually am much faster at this, and there we go. Hopefully there's no more wrestling for you there. All right, I'm going to read through some more comments here, as I'm sure Fred and Scott read through a few of yours. A lot of Dogs fans in the comments section. Guys, here in a couple minutes, we're actually going to be talking to a historian from the College Football Hall of Fame. You might know him as Dennis Crawford. He has an interesting connection to the Dogs. Let me pull him up here. We're actually going to hop on Zoom with him and talk a little bit about this championship game and what's sure to have several millions of people watching tonight. Again, I wanted to give you the schedule of our Chasing the Championship coverage. If you are planning to tune into that, that is going to kick off at 6:30 p.m. on Atlanta News First Plus, right here where you're watching. That's either Atlanta News First Facebook, YouTube, our Amazon TV, Apple TV, Roku TV channels, as well as our Atlanta News First app and our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. Did I say that 3 times fast? We're everywhere. And of course, after that, make sure you're tuning in to Atlanta News First for the official team coverage that is going to take you right to kickoff at 7:30 Eastern. All right, and I do believe I have Dennis here with me. Let me make sure that we can hear him and he can hear us. Dennis, can you hear us all right?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
And I can hear you. Hey, so I was just talking about how much fun we're having doing pregame coverage on here. What a historic game to be talking about with you, with the fans that are commenting, watching this. But I was talking a little bit about your background. You are a historian, you're a curator, you have ties to Georgia football history here. Tell me a little bit about your background and just how you're feeling about tonight's game.
Well, like you, I'm just excited to be here and be part of this amazing collection of fans from around the country. I'm very excited about tonight's game. At the beginning of the season, certainly nobody would have expected Texas Christian to be the opponent. Don't believe too many people are surprised that Georgia has defended their crown so vociferously throughout the season.
What does it mean to hold that title that you have, this historian and curator of the College Football Hall of Fame? You essentially take people through this experience and the history of football.
It is one of the great professional honors of my life to be entrusted safeguarding, preserving, and curating the history of this game. The passion of the fans that come through our museum. Additionally, those who came through our small activation at the Los Angeles Convention Center this past weekend just really opens my eyes at what a privilege it is for me to to convey this message of the history of this great sport to so many.
And I got to actually step foot inside the College Football Hall of Fame here in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was just a marvel to see and to walk through and to experience that history as a fan and just somebody who is learning about how football became to what we recognize it as is today, and all the triumphs that players have been a part of, and these significant moments that we all look back on fondly. For somebody who hasn't been through this or hasn't gone to the College Football Hall of Fame, tell me a little bit in summary that walk through what they can expect if they do go.
Well, the thing that I love about the Hall of Fame is we have a lot of very gifted technical people there. And so when you come in using your access badge, we'll be able to focus attention on your particular favorite team. So I went to a very small school. I went to Youngstown State University up in Ohio. But if I register as a Youngstown State fan, as I walk throughout the museum, I will have pictures and videos and highlights from Youngstown State's football history, in addition to the entire enormity of college football's history. So I think that's the number one thing, is it doesn't matter what school you went to, no matter how big or how small, you will find something from your school at the College Football Hall of Fame.
And I can attest to that. I'm actually from Hawaii, and I was not expecting the Bows to be represented at the College Football Hall of Fame. But to my surprise, that mask, that helmet did light up, and what a sight it was to see. To be representing each state, each football team was such an honor to be able to just witness that. Let's talk a little bit about this national championship game. You talk about TCU, who hasn't won a title like this since 1938, and Georgia, who has a chance to win 2 in a row. Whichever way this goes, it's going to be a historic night.
Yes, Georgia has the opportunity to be the first team to win back-to-back titles in this current era of the college football playoff. The last school to do that was Alabama won in 2011 and 2012. Alabama won back-to-back, but that was in the BCS era. And so this possibility of an undisputed back-to-back national championship is not something that happens very often. So I think Bulldog fans should be very excited by this. And on the other hand, Texas Christian fans, as you mentioned, it's been well over 80 years since Davey O'Brien led the Horned Frogs to a national title. I had fun letting people know this weekend that the team Texas Christian defeated in the bowl game all those years ago was Carnegie Tech. So that is how long it has been since TCU won a title.
And let's talk a little bit about the connection that TCU and UGA had. Is this their first time facing off with one another, or is there a history that exists there?
There is a brief history. This is the 5th overall meeting between the two teams, and the 3rd that will be in a bowl game. Back in 1942, they met in an Orange Bowl game. It was just after the outbreak, or I'm sorry, America's involvement in World War II, and Heisman Trophy winner Frank Sinkwich had an amazing game. He scored 4 total touchdowns. He had an Orange Bowl record of over 350 yards of total offense to help Georgia win that game. They met a couple of times at Sanford Stadium in the 1980s, including during Georgia's national title season in '80. And in their most recent game, it was Kirby Smart's first bowl game as Georgia head coach. It was actually his first season as Georgia head coach. They beat the Horned Frogs in the Liberty Bowl behind the star performance of Nick Chubb.
The national championship game, it is being held in Inglewood, California, Los Angeles this year. What is the history there? Has Los Angeles hosted a game like this before? I know SoFi Stadium is newer, but Los Angeles, not necessarily new to football. Has there been a game like this that has taken place there, and what can that say about what's going down tonight?
Well, as far as the CFP, this college football playoff, this will be the first for Los Angeles. Santa Clara, California, where the 49ers play, they hosted a CFP a few years ago between Clemson and Alabama. But Pasadena, the Rose Bowl, has hosted many de facto championship games. Probably the most famous one was when Texas beat USC back in 2005, the famous Vince Young last-minute touchdown. The most recent one, I believe, was when Alabama defeated, I lost my note there, when Alabama won a few years ago. FSU won the last of the BCS titles at the Rose Bowl against Auburn back in 2014.
And Atlanta has hosted this game in the past. It's expected to in the near future. Talk to me a little bit about what it means for a city to host a major game like this that's watched by millions of football fans across the country.
Well, this is a Chamber of Commerce's best dream. For several days, the host city is the focus of the football world. You have visitors from throughout the country coming into town and participating in the downtown section. So the hoteliers, the restaurateurs, the people who operate the local tourist areas are very, very happy to have a game of this significance in there because it's history. It is history actually in the making. So for many years from now, whenever somebody from the Fort Worth area or the Athens, Georgia area thinks of Los Angeles, they're going to think of it as being the site of where their team played for it all.
Yeah, certainly. I lost you there for a moment, Dennis, so I apologize for that brief pause. I want to talk a little bit to the newer Dogs fans or the newer Frogs fans that might be out there, you know, experiencing this for the first time, following along. As a historian, what do you hope the newer generation takes from as they watch this game in terms of looking back at the history and how we got to this moment?
Well, I hope any fan truly appreciates how difficult it is to make it to a final. You know, hundreds of teams play at this level of football, and only a few get to make it into the playoff, much less make it into this championship game. And so I hope all of the TCU and Georgia fans truly appreciate what a gift it is their teams have given to them this season, because next year is guaranteed to nobody. People who are up now will be down again. There's an amazing cyclical nature to college football, like any sport. So from a historical perspective, all I can say is appreciate the now.
Some wise words there. Looking ahead at tonight, any final thoughts? I'm sure you'll be watching and following along with this game from start to finish, but any final thoughts? What are your score predictions? The excitement is just building up here.
I am a historian, so I'm always looking in the past and at present. Don't look at the future.
Gotcha. Well said. Well, Dennis, I thank you so much for your time taking us through the history of college football, taking us through this today, looking ahead to this 7:30 kickoff and what lies beyond it. I appreciate it, your time and your expertise, and hopefully we'll get to chat again.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, that was Dennis Crawford, if you heard from him. He's a historian at the College Football Hall of Fame, actually. A very interesting guy to talk to. I always say I don't get enough time to speak with him, so a lot of perspective there. But, you know, talking about football and going into the history, really the moments that made the game what it is today and the players we recognize and know and love that went down in history is an important part of understanding why there is so much love for these guys and the excitement around the Dogs and even the Frogs, you know, possibly bringing this home again, making it to this national stage for a title that they haven't had since 1938 is a big moment. So let's dive into a little history here.
It's the dawn of a new era at UGA at 14-0. With a chance to win back-to-back national championships, die-hard Dog fan William Perry had an idea.
And when Kirby came around, you know, I just naturally thought, God, Kirby's Junkyard Dogs fits perfectly.
He decided to produce a new hit song called Kirby's Junkyard Dogs, a spinoff of the original James Brown classic, Dooley's Junkyard Dogs, which became a hit during Georgia's 1980 championship season.
People have asked me what I wanted to get out of putting the song out there, and really, I just want to be walking through campus before a game sometime and hear it played at a tailgate. That would be payment enough for me, because that would truly be like Dooley's Junkyard Dogs.
And who better to record the new ditty than a man dubbed Young James Brown? Tony Wilson said he was given that nickname by none other than James Brown himself.
He would be very amazed by it because we were close, and of course I had members of his band while he was alive, and we actually did his last Augusta show before he died in 2006 in Augusta, Georgia.
Now, nearly 50 years after the release of Dooley's Junkyard Dogs, Kirby and his new breed of bulldogs are making history of their own that fans will cherish for years to come.
So, you got Kirby, Junkyard Dog, because that's that raspiness. The man and the dog is mighty, mighty tough, and man, that's bad. So I had to change, we'll slap them into, we'll sack them. They'll knock you, they'll haul right off and sack you.
Once we discovered Tony Wilson, we just thought, this is it. This is the guy we've got to get. And not only does he have the voice, he's got the personality, he's got the moves. He's just a perfect fit for this song.
There were those that doubted whether or not TCU should even be in the college football playoff. And all the Horned Frogs did was pull off the biggest upset in CFP history, knocking out the 2-seed Michigan 51-45. And although it was just right after the game, the Georgia Bulldogs had this to say about the Horned Frogs.
I should know the quarterback. They got a physical receiver, big tall receiver. Their line is pretty good. Their running back is pretty straight downhill runner. I know something about them.
Nothing about TCU, just that they're a good team. They're in the top 2 right now. They won tonight. That's it. Yeah, that's all.
The top-ranked Bulldogs will likely leave for Los Angeles late next week. As for TCU, the Horned Frogs will be looking for their first national championship, and they'll do it against the Bulldogs team that's trying to go back-to-back for the first time since Alabama did it a little over a decade ago. At Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Fred Colell, Atlanta News First.
Some exciting history there, all going down, and really tonight making its own new history, as we can say. Hey, coming up here in just a couple minutes, we'll be talking to our reporter out in California, Patrick Quinn. Patrick flew all the way to Inglewood, California, Los Angeles, with the rest of our team of 10 here from Atlanta News First to bring you through that LA experience and how the city, how the state is buzzing and ramping up for a football game that is sure to go down in history. A lot of excitement there. We're going to be talking to Patrick live from Los Angeles here in a moment, but he actually sent us some footage a little while back that I want to play for you from the airport where he was waiting to beat the Dogs to their destination. He ran into some unexpected Georgia Bulldog fans.
Oh yeah, I mean, since last year, since we went to Indy, we were just hoping and praying. We didn't think we were obviously gonna have the same kind of year this year. But he lucked up, I guess, or practiced well, whatever you want to call it. He had a pretty good season. So
I've been waiting on this day for a long time. So on the way to LA to see the Dogs play. How do you feel? I feel real good about it.
Way excited. Go Georgia Bulldogs is all I can say.
Feeling good. Having a little morning brew here after I had breakfast, Mom. Don't worry. But I'm feeling good.
And taking you through SoFi Stadium, that is the what's being called a spaceship of a stadium. That is where the big game is going to go down 7:30 p.m. tonight. You can catch that. But before you do, make sure you tune in to our coverage here. We're continuing our pre-game excitement here at Atlanta News First, starting at 6:30, right where you're watching, exactly here, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Apple TV, Amazon, what's our third one? Roku TV, there we go. But the Atlanta News First app, as well as our AtlantaNewsFirst.com website, that is where you can catch our 30-minute special. We'll have Fred Khalil on there. We'll have all of our Atlanta News First team, our crews that are out in Los Angeles, following the fun and taking you right up until the point of kickoff. We have, starting at 7, our Atlanta News First WANF TV special, Chasing the Championship. That is going to be a whirlwind of excitement, and you know we're taking you exactly to the minute that kickoff takes place. So if you're going to watch your pregame fun, make sure you do it with us. We have a team of 10 in LA. We have a team out in Athens. We have a team at the Battery, as well as our sports staff here at Atlanta News First that are going to be taking you through all the fun. All right, so let's continue on with talking about this game and this moment. And really, a part of that is taking you through the California experience. Take a look at Randy's Donuts.
We are here at iconic Randy's Donuts in Inglewood, California. Take a look right now, that massive pink donut covered by Dr. Pepper for the 2023 championship game. But let me tell you, there's a whole lot going on inside this little building.
You know, you've just never had a donut like ours before.
In Inglewood, basically untouched since the 1950s.
I mean, our donuts are bigger, lighter, fluffier. We use the best ingredients out there.
Sits the world's most iconic donut shop.
So I am a donut connoisseur. Anytime I come out to LA, this is a staple stop for me.
Featured in more movies and TV shows than you can count, Randy's Donuts is the place in LA to grab that sugary baked dough.
All right, what do we got? What do we got?
First, we have a Fruity Pebble donut, and then we got tiny donuts, and then we got a Nutella one, and then we got a s'mores donut.
Inside, the process stays the same. Everything cut, sliced, baked, and glazed by hand. And take a look at some of these. They've got glaze, they've got chocolate, coconut, and everything in between. This one over here, that's Cinnamon Toast Crunch. A little bit of everything here at Randy's Donuts. Right now, the world's biggest donut, that legendary sign, covered up by a banner for the national championship, perhaps a beacon for any Dogs fans visiting LA for the big game.
Now, are you excited? Do you think they're going to taste good?
Yeah.
It's something we like to say. You come see the giant donut, but you come back for the donuts.
In Los Angeles, Alan Devlin, Atlanta News First.
Yeah, I gotta say, Randy's Donuts is just part of the excitement that is in LA and such a staple, now part of college football excitement. Let's try to see if we can get out to Patrick here. Patrick, can you hear us all right?
I can hear you, Maria. Can you hear us?
And I can hear you. Awesome. So I see the camera moving around. I'm not sure where you're at. Can you tell us?
Can you see us now?
I can see you now.
We're at Three Weavers Brewer. We are just down the street from SoFi Stadium. We're also just down the street from Randy's Donut, which we were just talking about. And here are some of the fans right here. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of red and black.
Sorry, I think your mic might be turned off. We're not hearing
you. You have to remember, we're still a few hours from kickoff, Maria, but there's a lot of excitement right now. Maria, can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I think we lost our audio for a second, but we're back. All right, and I'm going to try to reconnect with Patrick here, but you can see the excitement building up. A lot of red shirts, which can only mean a lot of Dogs fans out from where he's at. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you still hear us?
And I can still hear you. All right, we are good. We had a little bit of audio disconnect, but I think we're back.
Okay.
All right, I see a lot of red. I'm assuming a lot of Dogs fans around you.
Maria. All right, can you hear us again, Maria?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me, Patrick?
Yes, okay. So we're at Three Weavers Brewery. We're just down the street from SoFi Stadium. You just heard from a lot of those fans, and we've been traveling all this morning trying to find Georgia fans, and they haven't been hard to find. There technically is no formal tailgating at SoFi Stadium, that really was a decision not by SoFi, but the college football playoff organizers. And so a lot of fans had to find other places to go to tailgate, to pregame, and a lot, we're seeing here, they came and stopped by this brewery, and we actually found this place. We were driving around the street, and we just flagged down a woman on the street, asked her where she was headed. She said Three Weavers Brewery. She said, come on down. She said this group initially she thought was going to be a group of 5, but word quickly spread, and we're seeing, yes, numbers have, well, they've blown up. There's roughly 50 people here already today, and you have to remember we're still hours from kickoff. There is so much anticipation in the air. I got to tell you, you can really feel it as kickoff will be 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 our time, and this is what the sights look like a few hours till kickoff. Maria?
And Patrick, I gotta say, I know you were part of the team that made the journey out there Thursday to beat the Dogs to LA. Take us through a little bit of the highlights that you've experienced throughout this weekend.
Say that question one more time.
Yeah, no problem. So I know you were part of the team that made their way on Thursday all the way to Los Angeles to beat the Dogs and have been following along for this experience and taking us through the excitement that's ramping up in LA. What has this weekend been like for you? Take me through some of those highlights.
Maria, it's been an incredible week. You're right. We got here Thursday, flew in, and we were with a lot of Dog fans on that flight. Been here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, now Monday. The days finally arrived of this championship game, and it's been surreal at times. We got a behind-the-scenes tour of SoFi Stadium. It's a $4 to $5 billion stadium. That's where the game tonight will be played, and it is just a tremendous sight to see. I mean, if you're a fan of architecture and just building development and design, it is a sight to be seen. There's a jungle, live plants inside the arena. It's an open air facility. There is a canopy roof that allows for the sun to come in but no rain. So it is good for games, rain or shine, and we'll certainly see that come into play tonight with rain in the forecast. It's also open air. There's no air conditioning, so the air can just travel through SoFi Stadium. It creates a really cool game atmosphere. So you'll see that front and center tonight when the game kicks off. What else have we done since we've been in LA? Well, we went to a Lakers game, the Atlanta Hawks. They were in town on Friday night, so it was Hawks, Lakers, and LeBron James was there. That was a surreal experience just to see him warm up just beside us as they took on Trae Young and the Hawks. The Lakers won that game, beating Atlanta, the Hawks twice in 1 week. So we saw some of that. We went to Santa Monica Beach. We've seen the beaches. We went to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, got to walk up and down there. So just really kind of taking in the sights and sounds of Los Angeles. And from a lot of fans that I've talked with since arriving here on Thursday, they're doing the same thing. They've turned this into somewhat of a vacation, a holiday, grabbing a couple days on the front end and back into, take in some of Hollywood. I mean, so many people have heard of Hollywood, and Georgia and Atlanta is the Hollywood of the South, but here we are in real Hollywood, and so a lot of people, are, us included, have been just taking in some of this ambiance. Maria?
And we've been appreciating tagging along through this journey with you and getting these front row seats all the way to the west side of things. I gotta ask, because I've been asking everybody we've spoken to about this, who do you think it's gonna be, Dogs or Frogs, and how many points for the national championship title?
I think it's gonna be a lot of points. I think it's gonna be a lot of points. I mean, who knows, right? The projections, this question is always so difficult. What am I feeling? I think I'm going Georgia. I just think there's going to be a lot of points. Things that worry me are Georgia's defensive backs, their coverage. So if the line can get enough pressure on TCU's quarterback, I'll feel better about that. But I think this is just going to be really high scoring. I think Georgia will pull it off. I think we're going to have a really rowdy atmosphere later on tonight on Atlanta News First and early tomorrow morning recapping all of this. I hope that it's going to be a lot of positive news that we're bringing you from Los Angeles, but I'm expecting a high-scoring affair, a thrilling atmosphere, and Georgia winning it. We'll say 41-38 is your final, Dogs.
That's a good prediction. I think I'm right there with you on that guess. Patrick, thank you so much for your time. It looks like you have an exciting crowd behind you. We'll check back in with you tonight at 6:30.
Great. Thanks, Maria. See you.
All right, that was Patrick Quinn. He has been taking us through the excitement, not only of the Dogs, but also following our basketball teams, you know, the Hawks, the Lakers, getting up close and personal with LeBron James. If you were interested in that video, that is on our social media. It has been quite entertaining to follow along with him on this sports adventure that he's taken us on during his time in Los Angeles. Hey, I want to bring this up to you, and let me see if I can pull it up here so I can show you. But if you haven't heard, according to Governor Brian Kemp, it is Hunker Down Day here in Georgia. Monday, on January 9th, he has officially proclaimed it while he is down in California with the rest of the Kemp family. I'm going to try to bring this up for you here. Give me a second, guys. And there it is, that official proclamation. I'll bring my graphic down so you can see. So it shall be, according to Governor Brian Kemp, it is Hunker Down Day in Georgia. If you haven't put on your red yet and you were rooting for the Dogs, make sure you do so as we are in the final stretch. 7:30 p.m. tonight is the first kickoff, and fans young and old are going to be watching this game from start to finish. A historic moment. I'll pull up this proclamation for you so you can see it, read it out to you. On Monday, January 9th, the Georgia Bulldogs will face off against the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs in the College Football National Championship. And following their historic championship victory last season, this year's Georgia team has built their own legacy of which the entire Bulldog Nation can be justifiably proud as they attempt to both defend their title and become the first undefeated squad since the famous 1980 National Championship Dogs. And once again, led by quarterback and Heisman finalist Stetson Bennett, Georgia's offense has wowed fans with its high-scoring performances and produced points whom called upon in the must-win moments. He goes on to say that for all of those reasons and so many more, and for how significant this moment is to Georgia, it is officially Hunker Down Day in the Peach State. So if you can get into some spirit, Governor Brian Kemp in his tweet says that he, the First Lady, and the rest of the girls, they are all wearing red and black tomorrow, and you know that they are going to find a spot to tailgate. I think the governor, as being in California right now, being there with the Dogs and knowing what a love he has for UGA and for Georgia football, we can expect the governor, his family, to find some way to bring the Southern tradition, the Georgia tradition of tailgating to the West Coast. All right, and coming up here shortly, we're going to be having a full conversation with our sports reporter, Emily Gagnon. She is in Los Angeles along with Patrick, Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Alan Devlin, and the rest of the team. We're going to be talking with Emily about what we should be looking out for in tonight's game. She'll be giving us a quick run through of all that you can expect, along with what this weekend has brought. If you were with us through this weekend, I got a chance to be a part of this coverage, which was so exciting. Media day to talk to these players, to talk to Stetson Bennett, to talk to Kirby Smart, to talk to Coach Sykes, as well as the rest of the TCU team, all in the room for media day, followed by the head coach's press conference. That excitement just building up to today, where we are, I want to say, 5 hours away now from the first kickoff, so a lot to look forward to. Let's see if we can connect with Emily here. I'm going to give her a ring and see if we can get her up on the phone. And I do believe we have Emily Gagnon on the phone with us. Emily, can you hear us?
Hi Maria, how are you?
I'm great and so excited to be joining you. I know we talked a little over the weekend, but today is the day. It is Monday. We are 5 hours away from kickoff.
Yeah, that's right. We're inside of SoFi Stadium right now. Everyone making their final preparations for tonight's game. 7:30 kick Eastern time, 4:30 our time, local time, Pacific time here in California. Both teams, they are ready to go, right? They have no choice. It is finally here for the Dogs. This is something that they're used to, okay? This is a business trip for them. They are defending champions. They want back-to-back titles. So for them, it's been very serious. The mood has been very serious, and that's how head coach Kirby Smart is. He takes these trips very seriously. And listen, it works, right? Right now, they have won 31 of their last 32 games, and they're going for back-to-back titles. The last team that was able to do that was Alabama, 2011 and 2012 seasons. That was the last time a team won back-to-back national championships. That wasn't during the CFP era, so the Dogs have a chance to make history tonight, be the first team to go back-to-back in the CFP era. A lot on the line for Georgia tonight, and they're going to be ready. They have yet to lose this season. They don't remember what it feels like because the last time it happened was the SEC championship game last season against Alabama. You know, from the players I talked to, the one main difference from last season to this season, and they don't like to compare, they do not like to compare last season to this season, but they do say the main difference was last year's national championship game was a revenge game. That is not the case this year. This team has never faced TCU. This is brand new to them. This is a team that they have been studying for about a week now. Max Duggan, he was a Heisman candidate, a Heisman finalist, you know, top 4 best player in the country, along with Stetson Bennett. So they've been studying him all week, studying the TCU offense, the defense. So I don't want to say they don't know much about TCU, but they have never faced them. So it's been a while for the Frogs, okay? Those Horned Frogs have not won a championship since like 1938, I think it was. It was definitely back in the 1930s. So it's been a long time coming for that team. They're definitely the underdog coming into this game. If for some reason TCU is able to upset Georgia tonight, they would definitely be the Cinderella of all of college football. I can't say it enough. Last year, 5-7. They won 5 games last year. The winningest coach in program history, Gary Patterson, he was actually fired at the end of the season. They brought in Sonny Dykes, and Sonny Dykes has completely turned things around for TCU. It is so cool to see that a first-year head coach can come into a program and that kids can buy in as quickly as TCU did. Those kids believed that what the coaches were telling them was true, and it all paid off. They've lost a single game this year. They've certainly earned to be on this stage, and we can see very clearly how excited they are to be here. I mentioned that for Georgia, this is a business trip. For TCU, it's a little lighter. They're having a lot more fun than Georgia is. And when I say that, it's a player-led team for TCU. You keep hearing it. The players lead that team. For Georgia, it's a very different story. Head coach Kirby Smart has a very tight hold on his team, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a different thing. So it's a coach-led team. We'll definitely see what happens tonight between these two very different teams and different head coaches. But a very exciting game nonetheless, because listen, they both earned their right to be on this stage tonight. Maria?
Emily, I just love that you are in the stadium where it's all going to go down. What a sight that is. And I was hoping you could take us through Media Day for those viewers that weren't able to tune in over the weekend. You got to ask the players, coach, a bunch of questions, primarily from yoga routines to how they felt about each other, but mostly how they felt about this game and what their preparations looked like. What were some highlights of that conversation?
Yeah, so Media Day is unique, right? Because for people who might not know, during the regular season, we don't get to pick the players that we talk to. Georgia makes that decision for us. So Georgia, after games, will bring out players and say, here are the 5 or 6 that you get to interview. But during Media Day, for the Peach Bowl and for the National Championship, every player on the roster is made available, so you can talk to guys that you've never talked to before. Jalen Carter is a perfect example of that, the defensive lineman right now projected to go in the top 5 of this year's NFL draft. I've been covering the team for 6 years now, Maria, and during the Peach Bowl, that was my first time talking to him. I mean, it's incredible to think that he has been at Georgia for 3 seasons, but it was my very first time talking to him, and he's going to the NFL. You know, he'll be playing in the NFL this time next year. So I talked to him during the Peach Bowl. I talked to him this week, and he's a great dude. He had so many honest things to say. He's very, very different. I expect for him to have a big game tonight. That front seven, Georgia's front seven, is really going to have to affect the quarterback and stop the run if they want to win tonight. That's going to be a key for me for the Dogs to win. Stopping the run, affecting the quarterback. Limiting Max Duggan. They definitely want to do that. And I say that because Georgia's secondary is the weakest part of the defense. I hate to say it, but they struggle defending the pass. So if TCU throws the ball a lot tonight, they will be successful against Georgia. We will see if that's the game plan they go with, but you've got to imagine when they watched LSU and then they watched Ohio State, that they saw that. They saw, TCU's coaches and TCU's players saw that that is one way to beat Georgia. We'll definitely see if that's what happens tonight, but during Media Day, Maria, just to take you back, Jalen Carter was great talking to him and just hearing his thoughts about, you know, how in the SEC championship game he sacked LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels. He picked him up with one arm, the other arm was up, and he put up the number 1. You know, he said, I didn't want to hurt him. You know, he was just in the moment when he picked up the quarterback. That's definitely probably one of the best plays he's had in his college career. But, you know, he explained to me his thought process, and when he looked on the sideline when he had the quarterback in his arms, he said everybody just looked shocked. And then he said he was shocked that he was able to make that play. It's something that he had done in Little League, he said, but not since. And he said he definitely plans on doing it again. So we'll see how that works out. But it was interesting talking to him and, you know, all the other guys that you get to hear from that you usually don't get to talk to. Darnell Washington, a huge storyline entering this game. He injured his ankle during the Peach Bowl. He came out of that game, never returned. He could be seen on the sideline in a boot and on crutches. We have not seen him in a boot or crutches since he's landed in Los Angeles. I can tell you, he got off the plane, walked straight to the team buses. During media day, he was walking around on his own. When I talked to him, he did explain how he broke his hand back in high school, and he broke it during a game and kept playing through it. So he says his pain threshold is pretty high. The unique thing about the guy, other than his size and his ability, is the fact that he's from Los Angeles. I mean, not Los Angeles, I apologize. He's from Las Vegas. So he's from the West Coast, and this game means a lot to him because his family doesn't get to watch him play when he's in Georgia. So he really, really wanted to play in this game, and if he can, he definitely will go tonight. Again, family here to watch him. The West Coast means a lot to him. Head coach Kirby Smart told us yesterday that he is hopeful Big O can play, but certainly if he can't go, right, if he can't be out there to help his team, they will not put him out there. But that's not to say that he doesn't want to be out there. Ladd McConkey also injured in the SEC championship game, knee issues. He did play in the Peach Bowl, very limited in the Peach Bowl. He limped around after the 2-point conversion. If you were watching the game, he was limping off the field. So he's playing through pain. He did let us know that there isn't a player in the country right now playing that isn't banged up, and that's absolutely the truth. But being banged up and being injured are two different things, right? Ladd McConkey, the leading receiver for Georgia, he is a big deal. Darnell Washington, such a big presence on the field. Both guys, key players for Georgia. We'll have to wait and see if they play tonight. Ladd, I do expect he will play in a limited capacity, so the receivers around him are going to have to step up. A.D. Mitchell and Arian Smith, both of those guys will have to play huge roles in tonight's game to beat TCU. And of course, when you look at Darnell, there's no other guy on the field bigger than him. So he's not replaceable, but Brock Bowers, right? When you take a look at him, he might be the best tight end in the country. He certainly got recognized as the best tight end in the country with a Mackey Award given to the best player at that position. So you got him, but he can't replace Darnell Washington because Washington is more of a traditional tight end. He blocks a lot. Brock Bowers does not do as much of that as Darnell does. So, you know, after my conversation with Darnell, I learned about, you know, the injury he suffered in high school. I learned that he has a high pain threshold. He will play. If he does play tonight, he will play through pain. But you got to remember, these athletes, they have adrenaline for days in these games. This is the biggest game in his college career. So he'll be out there if he can, and he'll be playing with adrenaline, and hopefully the pain will be a little lesser. Maria?
The conversation that's been coming up here in the newsroom from Adam Murphy, Fred Khalil, and all of us was how this is so different from Indianapolis, and yet the feeling and the excitement is all the same. Has this moment been like for you compared to a year ago?
I don't know that it's any different. It's definitely a different location, right? Like, you're in Indianapolis, it's cold out. You want to run into buildings when you're outside, and here you're in LA. The weather hasn't been the best for us, but it's certainly been better than Indianapolis last year. You know, I'm kind of like Kirby on this one. It's a business trip for me, right? Like last year and this year, as a reporter, you're a human, right? You are a reporter, that is your job, but you're also a human. And you get to know these players. And you're not, as a reporter, you try to stay impartial, and you don't necessarily want a team that you cover. You don't want them to win as a fan, but you get to know the players and the coaches, and you want the players and coaches to win, because that's who you interview day in and day out. You get to know them, you get to know their families, you get to know so much about them. So as a human, you're like, hey, I want these guys to do well, right? So for me, I want these guys to do well. They're good kids. I mean, honestly, this might be my favorite group that I've covered at Georgia in 6 years. Every player you talk to is just so thoughtful in their answers and can let you in and tell you so much information, and they don't really hold much back. So for me, Maria, there's not much of a difference, but you kind of feel that Georgia's building a dynasty right now. Head coach Kirby Smart learned from the best, learned from the man who set the standard in Nick Saban. And what's funny is Kirby's 47 years old. He's got so many years ahead of him, so you've got to wonder, 3 national championship visits in 6 seasons. How many more are these Dogs going to go to, knowing how they're on such a roll and knowing that Kirby and his staff recruit so well? That, to me, is the best thing that they do. They recruit, and this team stays loaded at every position, so there's no drop-off from one season to the next. And you saw that, right? You saw that from last year to this year. No drop-off whatsoever. That's why they've been able to maintain excellence. That's why they've been able to maintain this level of play that you rarely see, and honestly, basically only see from Alabama. So it'll be interesting to see tonight. If Georgia does win, they'll have won 2 of 3 national championships that they went to in 6 seasons. And Kirby's only been at Georgia for 7. He was able to turn the program around that fast. If you think about that, that's incredible. And again, like, he's building a dynasty. Tonight would definitely be, if the Dogs win, that conversation will be had right away. Georgia's becoming a dynasty if they aren't already.
Emily, thank you so much for taking us into the stadium, for taking us through this experience and just the excitement, these players, their personal stories. It's all been such a magical moment for a lot of us here to see these guys who we consider, college-aged kids following this journey that not a lot of college football players get to do, to be at this game, possibly taking home 2 championship titles in a row. I just have one question for you, and who better to ask than Atlanta's sports reporter? Who's going to win? What are your predictions, and by how many points?
So, Maria, I think I'm kind of losing you, but I think I heard you asking me who do I think is going to win tonight. I do think Georgia will win. I don't know that they'll win convincingly, only because in their last 2 games, they've given up 71 points. When you ask defensive players, they almost cringe. They cannot believe that they've given up 71 points to 2 opponents, Ohio State and LSU. So I do believe Georgia will win tonight, go back-to-back, be the first team to do it in the CFP era, but I don't think that it's going to be a cakewalk. I absolutely think TCU is going to keep it close. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't want to give you a final score, but I definitely do think Georgia will pull it off in a high-scoring game, and it'll be close. So probably, listen, maybe I'm a little crazy here, but I think it'll be within a touchdown, okay? So TCU is definitely going to score points, and it'll be on Georgia's defense to make some stops. they will absolutely have to make some stops. Sonny Dykes, before I leave you, Sonny Dykes, the TCU head coach, said to be successful today, for them to be able to have a chance to win, they want to be able to run the football, and they're going to have to run the football consistently. That is their key to win tonight. We will see if they're able to do that. That front seven, as I mentioned earlier, that is the strength of Georgia's defense. They're going to have to make those stops. Max Duggan, the Heisman Trophy finalist, will he be able to make big plays on this big stage? It'll all come down to that.
Emily, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again and following along with you for this historic game. Thank you. All right, that was Emily Gagnon, our Atlanta News First sports reporter, taking you inside SoFi Stadium, where we are officially in, which means the countdown is on. I'm looking at the clock off to my right here, less than 5 hours away. Watch parties in Athens, we've seen earlier this morning, are already going down. We went out to Patrick, where we found some dogs in LA getting ready to cheer the guys on. But take a listen to what TCU head coach Sonny Dykes had to say.
Yeah. Just want to say thank you to everybody for being out here and welcoming TCU. We're excited to be here. The weather is awfully nice. We left, it was cold and windy in Fort Worth today, and it's a beautiful sunny Southern California day. So we're excited to be here. Again, appreciate you coming out and covering our team and our players. So we're excited. It's been quite a journey to get here. Our guys are well prepared. We've had a good week of practice. Had a really nice practice this morning as well. So we feel like a lot of the heavy lifting's done to get us ready to go play. You know, we'll do a walkthrough tomorrow, run through before the game. A lot of preparation still to go, but our guys are fired up to be here, excited, and looking forward to playing against a really good Georgia team.
Sonny, what was your message to your team as you kind of embarked and began the travel? What do you want to tell them?
You know, honestly, it hadn't been much different than it has been all year. It's been pretty consistent. Just, you know, do a great job of preparing, handle yourself like a professional. You got to credit our players. They've been really mature all year long in their approach and what they've done to prepare and get themselves ready to go out and play their best football. So it's kind of business as usual for us, honestly. I think the approach has served us well up until this point, and so we're going to stay consistent with our messaging. And, you know, our guys see it as a great opportunity and another chance to play a game, obviously a very meaningful game, but they're, you know, we got a formula and the guys are going to follow it.
Taking a look, this is inside SoFi Stadium. We are officially in. This is a live picture from Los Angeles, where we have our managing editor, Josh Morgan, out there. Josh, I know we were talking earlier this morning about you walking in, but take me through what was going through your head when you actually saw the inside of this spaceship of a stadium.
It's amazing. It's rocking inside here. They're playing a little music to get make sure everything technically is set inside here. We've been getting mic checks and all that, but walking through the tunnel, as we talked about earlier, walking through the tunnel, coming out into this stadium, I mean, it just goes forever. I mean, I know you've got the other camera up as well with another shot of it, but my gosh, I mean, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. I hate to say you just have to be here, because I know a lot of people want to do that, but it's hard to explain without being on the field and just walking in and seeing the monstrosity of it. And it goes forever as far as the height. I know a lot of these stadiums, we talked earlier how it's very vertical, and we were told it's very vertical, which keeps the sound in. When you're standing on the field, you just see how vertical it really is. I mean, it's just so high. Those seats up there, which I believe at last check were still, the worst seat in the house was still going for well over $300, especially when you add in all the service fees and taxes, close to $400. It's a long way to that field. You're more getting in for the experience and the fun and being a part of the entertainment, but you're not going to see a lot of football from way up top. But my gosh, what an experience, what a stadium. The roof, thank goodness for the roof, because it is pouring outside. When we walked in, it was just sprinkling and misting, but then all of a sudden it got really loud in here, and I think everybody just kind of looked at each other and was like, is that the rain? And then a few more people walked in about 10 minutes later and they were soaked. So yeah, it was the rain. But it gets loud in here on that roof. It's kind of a glass roof, translucent roof. And yeah, there's plenty of rain. out there, and I am glad we have an umbrella-like dome here because this would not be a very enjoyable experience if we were standing here getting soaked. So kudos to those out there, fans out there, the other reporters and teams out there providing coverage out in the rain because it's ugly out here, but my gosh, it is beautiful inside SoFi.
Have you seen any tailgating going on? We got to talk to Patrick, who found a bulldog area where fans were already getting ready for some watch parties. But around SoFi Stadium, any activity, any southeast tailgating experiences?
Yeah, not yet. I think the rain is enough to say, okay, maybe we don't need to be here 5 hours before game time. Maybe we can be there like 2 hours before game time. I'm sure the bars and restaurants in this area in Inglewood are doing a little more business right now than maybe they expected to, as I think a lot of people are probably pre-gaming at the establishments around the stadium, in and around. And then when that clock gets a little bit closer to 4:30 p.m. Pacific, I think you'll start to see a lot more people out there. So now it was busy out there. There was people, we walked by people, they were asking the security guard a question, and after they got done, they yelled, "Go Dogs," right at them. So they're here, they're around, they're not letting it scare them, but you don't see the mass of people outside yet. I think that's mostly due to the rain, but we know Dogs fans, they're not gonna let a little rain get in their way. They'll be here, but I think they might be hanging back at the hotels and the restaurants a little bit longer this morning.
And we are following along with the Dogs, including this stream, taking people through pregame excitement and coverage. But leading up to 6:30, our Atlanta News First Plus Chasing the Championship special. As someone who's been out there in California, walk me through what people can expect when they tune in to that pregame coverage later on tonight.
It's going to be a round robin of reports, so we're going to be covered. So you just talked to Emily, she'll be inside here. We're going to have Alan Devlin, who will be inside here from this vantage point right here. And so they will be inside the stadium. We'll have Patrick Quinn, who you just talked to, outside the stadium. Rob Hughes and Ella Dorsey from our morning show will be outside the stadium as well. And then I know we have multiple crews back in Georgia, in Atlanta, in Athens, covering stories. So what we're trying to do in that 6:30 special is not sit on anything for too long. That 6:30 special is going to be showing everybody everywhere, giving you full coverage around the stadium, around Georgia. As Dogs fans prepare for this, we are going to be everywhere you want us to be, and you're going to get quick reporting, quick coverage. You're going to hear sound from fans. We might have some live interviews in that. And at that time, at 6:30, we should have live action behind us. Now, we haven't been told, but we do see the Dogs stuff in the like their equipment in the tunnel right here, right next to me, and that tells us that the Dogs may be warming up on this end of the field, and so that's what we're hoping for. This media area is probably, I'm looking at the field to give you I don't know, the media area is probably 20 yards, to put it in perspective, that we have, and that is the only area we're allowed to be. And so we are hoping, we've got a 50-50 chance, but we are hoping that the Dogs are warming up on our end of the field so we can kind of give you some live action as it's going. As Alan's talking, we'll have our other camera giving you live action. When Emily's talking, we'll have this camera giving you some live action as they're warming up. So we should be able to get some injury updates. I know Emily talked about it. Darnell Washington, Ladd McConkey. We should be able to get see how they're doing, see how they're moving on the field. We'll see if they come out of the locker room and are doing full warm-ups. We'll see if they have limited. We'll see if they're limping. We should be able to get a pretty good indication, honestly, during that 6:30 special. And on Atlanta News First Plus, what those two guys are looking like and whether they think they can go tonight. And that's going to be a big deal for the Dogs offense, whether those guys are ready, whether they can play a limited role, or whether they're going to have to watch this one from the sidelines like the rest of us.
And then I hear we're also bringing the people the post-game experience as well. Is that correct?
We are. We're hoping that will be like a 90-minute post-game show, because that means, if it is, that means the Dogs won. So we've got big plans if the Dogs win. We certainly will be here either way. We're not going to just give up if the Dogs lose and not provide any coverage, but we certainly have massive coverage planned from all of those people we just talked to. And the nice part and the fun part about being in this stadium for that is, and I overheard Emily talking about it a little bit, but we are always dictated to on who we can talk to, which players are made available. After the game, it's a free-for-all. We did it last year. It was a ton of fun in Indianapolis when they won. We just went out on the field.
every player was out there. They were celebrating. They were wearing their hats, their shirts, saying national champions, and we walked up to them, put a camera on them, and they talked about it, and they shared their excitement. If they win tonight, we're going to be right back on this field behind us, talking to every player that we can, and to get their immediate, emotional, candid reaction to the national championship win. So, but we don't want to jinx any of that right now. We still got several hours till that. Let's not talk about a post-game win until that thing's over.
That's how I know you're getting very serious about this game. I gotta say, you've made a Dogs fan out of me with my initially limited sports knowledge. What do you have to say?
You're doing great.
Thanks. What do you have to say to the newer generation of Dogs fans, TCU fans who are going to be watching this game? What should they watch out for? Where is that excitement really? I'm sure it's going to be from start to finish, but give a little words of wisdom for the newer football fans out there.
Well, I mean, a national championship game is a great time to start falling in love with football because it's got all the pomp and circumstance. You know, a regular Saturday at noon doesn't exactly have all the bells and whistles and the pomp and circumstance and the lights and the entertainment, honestly, the build-up. All of this is, you know, for anybody new to the game, anybody new to Georgia, anybody new to the Bulldogs, this is as good as it gets. If there's a game to watch, it's the Super Bowl of college football, right? It's the national championship. And this is a way for passive fans, even fans that maybe their significant other, their husband, their wife, their boyfriend, girlfriend is into, but maybe they're not into it as much. Well, tonight, sitting down, watching it, being a part of, you know, our pregame coverage, showing just how passionate. That is the best part about college football. It is a passion. You get to the pros, and don't get me wrong, there's a couple franchises that have the diehard fans, but for the most part, it's not the same. This is a way of life. I grew up personally on a college campus, not here, or not in Georgia, but I grew up in East Lansing, Michigan, on a campus of Michigan State. And when you grow up on a college campus, loving a college football team, college basketball team, it's in your blood. This is as good as it gets. This is the ultimate stage. Even a passive fan, even a fan that's not overly interested in football, can sit down and enjoy this football game. These are two very good teams. These are two teams that are very explosive on offense. These are two teams that struggle a little bit on defense, so I expect some points to be scored. If you can't enjoy this football game after tonight, if you're just a passive fan or a new fan, then football's probably not for you.
Well, we'll be tuning into all the excitement. Right now, the countdown for the kickoff at 7:30 p.m. TCU versus UGA is ongoing. We are continuing our coverage with our newscast at 3. Josh, thank you so much for bringing us inside this magnificent stadium.
You bet. Go
Dogs. All right, guys, like I said, we are continuing our coverage here at Atlanta News First. We are taking you through all of the excitement that is still yet to come as we count down now to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But hey, we're going to continue this inside look into SoFi Stadium through the LA experience into the watch parties in Athens, everything that you can expect going down right with our 3 o'clock newscast into our 6:30 p.m. special. Please make sure you check it out. You don't want to miss it. We're going to be taking you through all of the coverage, the teams that we have spread across the West Coast and here in Georgia. That is going to be on Atlanta News First. Plus, you can watch it on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, on the Atlanta News First app, and of course to all my Facebook and YouTube people that are watching and have been sticking with us since we jumped on here at 10 a.m. That is going to be back at 6:30 for you. So make sure you are setting an alarm or downloading the Atlanta News First app. We'll send a notification directly to your phone so you don't miss a thing.